Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Anyone? Wow. I think we are winding down on this. If I understand. Hello, Carla Ray. Good to see you. The way I understand what's happening right now is that we're going. I think the defense is ready to rest. Close to it anyway, for sure, I believe. And then there's going to be a rebuttal from the Legs. There'll be a rebuttal from prosecution. Obviously, we'll have, closing statements. So it does look like it's probably going to go into next week. I really had hoped that was not going to happen. I would like to think that. No, I agree. They don't need a rebuttal, actually. But I will tell you that I do think that they should. They do need to show that those kids were not honest. Hey, Jeffrey. You just watched this. Garth and Emma lied at the grand jury then in this trial. That's my take on this. And I really thought I was going to feel so sorry for those kids being put in a bad position, but I don't even feel sorry for them. They straight have lied. They have 100%. They not only lied, they completely just talk shit about their own mother, which is unbelievable. No, this is the thing. I agree that it's already pretty much wrapped up, in my opinion. That's my opinion, Legs. I agree with that 100%. That it's already done. I believe the guilty verdict is 100% there. But the fact is, if you can show that those kids are being dishonest about one thing, you can show they're being dishonest about, then you really can't believe them, right? About anything. So, and that is all they have, literally all they have. Told his friend he found his mother dead. Wow. See, I know that he has said different things about, like, even to Dateline or 48 Hours or one of them. Can't remember which one. He has told a few different stories from my understanding. Hey, Beck. Last night on these kids, they are so brainwashed. Yeah, and you know what I have heard? Again, just because you have a better relationship with somebody, I don't know. I have heard that Emma, had a much better relationship with her father, and that her and her mom had just started building a really good relationship when they started working together, or, which is kind of common too. Once, your daughter becomes an adult, whatever. I don't know. I don't know. The whole thing is, it's one thing that you don't have a close relationship, but for them to get on there and completely trash their mom and say she really was lazy, she really was trying to cheat on a Fitbit. I mean, what? Seriously? All these people said they saw Tammy in running a marathon, and she swears her mother would never do that. I mean, it's just weird the way she's like I said, whether Tammy was really good at clogging or not, I can tell you right now, I'm not about to attempt a clogging class. Don't even try to talk to me about that. It ain't going to happen. I don't know. Anyway, and the facts are the facts. He brought in a doctor that did not say that the autopsy showed she died of natural causes, which is what they're trying to say. And if anemia and these, if the things that they think that say killed her, then I'm got one nail in the coffin. I mean, seriously? Yeah, that's me too, Carla. Me too. And, these kids have shown no concern for there being children buried. Honestly, if my dad was being arrested right then, I would not be worried about the mortgage. I would not be worried about getting a bed. What the hell's a mattress about? Someone reminded me of that. I would be saying, Dad, do you know there are kids in this yard? What the fuck? Whatever relationships people have, I don't know anybody who's ever experienced that. But I would want to know. Who cares about Lori's commissary, all this bullshit they talked about right then, right after they found kids in the yard? That's insane. And you know what? They just have a very hateful attitude. If you ask me, that Emma, I thought for sure I was going to really feel so sorry for her, and I don't. And not her husband either. Not one bit. Did everybody see that that interview with Emma's brother-in-law? I thought it was very nice. He wasn't hateful towards him, but he actually seems very understanding where they're coming from, but he knows, like everybody else, they're wrong. Yeah, they were. You know what I think? The way it sounds to me, and the way that Emma even said, like they were fundamentalists, that her dad thought of it as he perceived himself as a LDS fundamentalist. Those are the ones that have multiple wives and this and that, and only the man is only one allowed to have any kind of say so. He's the ruler of the joint, blah, blah, blah. That's great. That's awesome. If that's the way you want to live, hey, more power to you. But as a man, as a patriarch, when you have those, you might have several wives or whatever, but adultery is a whole nother story, I believe. And, if you're a patriarch, what did he do for the family? He didn't do anything. But dog his wife after she worked 2 jobs and had all kinds of other activities. Dog her out for playing video games. I mean, that's, you may want to, okay, a patriarch is one thing, but that's not what he was. He's running amok, talking a bunch of nonsense. And I wonder if Emma knows Lori is not the first one that he told they were married in other lives. That was his pickup line. He was. It's exactly right. He was a lazy ass. That's what I say all the time, Carla. You know what? Worthless as tits on a damn boar hog. Totally worthless. Tammy did the stuff in the yard, took care of everything at the house. She had commitments to the church. She had all these different workout classes. She ran their publishing company. She was the only one with an income. I mean, come on. The guy contributed nothing except for being in charge, telling everybody else what the hell to do while he did squat. He was constantly looking for his Elena. How fucking gross. And you know what? I don't even care what you did do in other lives. How about we talk about this life, okay? Whatever kind of nonsense you want to pull out of your ass about some other dimension, what the hell I don't even understand all of it, and I don't care to. How many people sit around every day and go, well, no, we can't do that because, in our other life, we did this. Okay, well, we're not living that life right now. How about that? How about that, Mr. Mantits? Criminy, I can't believe anybody listened to his shit. He was a damn bum, exactly. He's so gross. Makes my stomach sick. He makes my damn blood boil. He just infuriates me. And I really wish that I didn't have to feel ugly where those kids are concerned, but I do. They just really totally went after their own mother, and that just hurts my heart. They act like they had just disdain for her. So it looks like a rebuttal. I think it's, you know, the thing is, this is a deal. I don't think that the prosecution really needs that. I feel like the jury can probably see through this. But if you get, you know, if you end up in a hung jury, you end up, you know, with an acquittal, you can't go back and say, you know, we should have made sure they knew those kids were lying. You know, you can't have a redo on that. That's it right there. Such disrespect, right? And you know, Lori's the one they should have had disrespect for. She's a shameful ass. Right. And I think they kind of have to. If they end up in an acquittal and they did not, you know, show that those children impeach themselves, I mean, without, you know, they don't have to, you know, charge them with that, but they do need to say, listen, they need to show what they've said is not true, because it's not. Right. Right. Exactly. That's what I'm saying too. And how can you, you know, you put it all together, like the cops are, you know, Pryor keeps saying things like, you know, didn't you do that just because of this? Well, yeah. Yeah, that's why we did it. So what? That's why you do that stuff. Like I said, I don't think when they walked in that day that they were looking at Rico Suave thinking, oh, this guy looks sus. No, he looked like a fucking dipshit with man tits. They didn't think that. Oh, okay, well, now that we learned this and that and that and this, damn. Yeah, now it's sus for sure. That's it's called an investigation. Shut up. Hey, Becca. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Yeah. Yeah, it's wild. And all this DNA, you know? Wow. Okay. Oh, you mean rather not a bunch of DNA. Yeah. The only thing that Mantits did that was somewhat impressive is was smart enough to turn his phone off. And isn't that, you know what? It's kind of embarrassing if you want to know the truth. His DNA was found on nothing in that shed. Really? It's his shed. I bet you Tammy's DNA was all over the damn place. Yeah. More proof that he's a lazy piece of shit. Hey, Mama. Thank you, Frazzled. Okay, I will get this going then. Here's all my take on this stuff, which means literally nothing in the whole world. I know. She did everything. Doesn't it? I mean, it just is unbelievable. It wasn't enough that no doubt she listened to his shit and thought, whatever. Maybe she bought into it. I don't really think she did. She didn't seem to me to have time to buy into a bunch of his horse crap. And that, Emma says that she didn't go all the way with her dad, but she said she did have some person in her body and her dad got him out. The fuck is that? I don't know. That's not the kind of talk that went on in my house ever. I never heard that shit. Never, ever. Oh my God. And I don't even deny it to have very strong, old school, conservative values. I'm down with the patriarch and matriarch. I'm down with all that. To an extent. But it sounds like he was the only one given any respect at all. And the one who didn't deserve a fucking ounce of it. Yeah, it's just weird as piss. And then, what, I just want to say another thing really quick. They act like it's, whose fault is it that they say, people have treated him a little differently and a little weird around there? Of course. If everybody in the world knows about this. That's what she said. Yeah. Something was in her. I don't know. They might have even named the fucking thing. I don't know. They love calling people by different names. I cannot. Ray, James. Oh, good God. It just sounds like a joke. But, of course people in that town treat him differently. I would think you would have to leave. You really should assume you're going to be treated weird. You should. Oh, yeah. Those are the people who dead bodies were in their pet cemetery. Oh, yeah, that's Mr. Man-Tits that got married the day after his fucking wife died. Shut up. Of course people are thinking you're weird. You are weird. I would wonder if there is a town for you to go in. I'm sorry. Sorry. Not sorry. Straight up. That's exactly right. Emma can't teach my kids. Right. Yeah. Oh my God. And her husband's a teacher too, right? Wait, is he? I guess now I don't know what her husband does. Garth is a teacher. It is. It's fucking nuts as shit. Right. Of course, people in town are staring at you at the grocery store. Who wouldn't? Yeah, Garth. That's right. Garth is a teacher. I can't remember what Joe does other than lie. And they're not even good liars. You guys, they're not. They don't even sound believable. Yeah, screw that if I'm going to have a child in that classroom. Hell no. I wonder how many parents listened to her testify and were like, oh, hell no. We knew her dad was a serial killer, but I had no idea that she even acted like there was something inside her. Weirdos. Shit balls. No way. I don't want nothing to do with nobody in that family. I feel so sorry for like Tammy's aunts and her sister, They don't even get to have a relationship with the kids because they are no way going to act like this guy's innocent. He's not. And I've heard them. They're brokenhearted over that. Like, can you imagine? I mean, I know how much I love my niece and nephews, and God, everybody loses here. Everybody loses. That's a sad thing. Get a divorce, you fucking tits. canine. Been there and done that pretty much daily. I hear you. Wow. Okay, I'm going to start it before we end up. You know what happens with me? I run my mouth. And so, Carla, what we do here, we start late so that we can fast forward all the nonsense. Exactly. They do. And right. And just to have a relationship with those kids, they're not going to act like he didn't kill their sister and their niece. They're not. You can't blame them, but that means they don't get to know their nieces. I was wondering if that's why Charles had to die, because he would not divorce her in the... No. The reason he had to die, Frazzled, is because he was going to divorce her. Now, he did not want the divorce, but he wasn't worth any money to her in a divorce. See, in a divorce, she might have gotten alimony and child support, but he had $1 million life insurance policy. And so he had to die before there was a divorce. Hey, Panda. Yeah, he had to die because, see, then that way, so she would get $1 million life insurance payout. Then she would get Social Security for herself for him dying, and then Social Security for JJ. Well, once he figured out there was some kind of shenanigans going on, he put that in his wife's or his sister's, change the beneficiary. Yeah. So no, it would have been bad for her if they had been divorced. And see, they were counting on that money. And then Man-Tits over there was never going to get a divorce because, he had to keep looking like this really strong man of the house kind of guy that doesn't fucking work. But they weren't quite as worried about her life insurance because they were going to get $1 million there. Also, they were going to get $1 million, at least, maybe $2 million, I think, from Brandon Boudreaux whenever, because remember they tried to kill him. But even without getting life insurance from Brandon Boudreaux, Melanie got a large payout from her divorce settlement. So after they lost the $1 million, they started working on upping Tammy's life insurance, which they did. They really needed, and they were trying, as you know, they were trying very hard to kill Brandon and get that money. Remember, Zulema said that Mel had, money for them. That's what Lori said. A lot of people, I've heard a lot of different people, Melanie Boudreaux's former friends and stuff. A lot of people say she was very, very generous. They did well financially. And one of her friends said that one time she gave a $30,000 SUV that she already had. It was used. She had been driving it herself, but she gave it clean title away to a needy family. A lot of different instances, they said she was very, she was messed up too, though. Her mom died when she was little, and then Melanie kind of took over as her mom, kind of, but not till she was like 15, I think, because the dad had her. But, Melanie would have, or Lori effed with anybody's head. Plain and simple. That was a whole fucking whatever mess. How far greed will... Exactly. I know, Becca. It's so sad. It is so sad. That's why, so many people think this is about being a cult, and this is more about religion and stuff. It's truly not. It's really not. That's the little game they played, like dress up or whatever. That's the shit they did. But the fact is, this is simply about money, sex, and power. That's what it is. 100%. And if anybody thinks that he believed that shit, he did not. He knew better. He knew. He changed his stories in his books even. I mean, listen, seriously. Then he had to go around and start saying they were loosely fictional. I mean, the guy hasn't told the truth about shit. Yep, she's exactly right, Carter. Yeah, she had been manipulating Melanie for years. Look at Melanie called Chad dad. Does that make somebody want to throw up a little bit in their mouth? What the fuck? And he with his pussy ass voice. Yeah. Whatever. He has tits. Seriously? It's fucking gross. So disgusting. He did. I know. And she as much admitted that she knew they were going to die whenever she said they would be with Alex. Yeah. Exactly, Becca. They're real. Yeah, you're absolutely right. 100%. Yeah. That's why it's a cult. Right. They don't even believe it themselves. They don't. They know better. Even if he believes he was married to someone in another life, you're not living that life right now. Okay, so guess what? Hey, you know how weird this is? Stranger, I just met you. You and I had a beautiful fucking life together, in some other dimension. Hey, right on. Good luck with your life now. What the fuck does that have to do with anything? It doesn't. Besides, it's weird, and you don't know that. You don't know squat about anything like that. It's crazy. It's always about money. Almost everything is about money. Let's just be honest. I mean, so many times I will even tell Mr. Snotty, like, what is that person's motive? I am not understanding. He's like, it's always money. Well, it drives me crazy. How did anybody sit there and not call him a worthless fuck? I don't get it. They would always have to ask him, and then he's texting Ray. What? It sounded like a fucking, not even a good show, like not even a funny one. It's weird. And yeah, don't even think that Zulema wasn't going to die. Nobody is going to give you a massage on a fucking tarp. Stop. Especially in a hotel. If I were at my house, I might, you might want to put something down so you don't ruin your own sheets and ruin your own things. At a hotel, the fuck out of here. Oh, no problem. I'm just running my mouth for 30 minutes here straight. I know. Now all of a sudden, Alex has some kind of fucking wisdom. He didn't before. Chad and Lori had to tell him every single thing to move to make. Now all of a sudden, they're going to text him dead. Oh, good God, you cannot make this shit up. And you know what? If his kids are okay hearing that he increased the pain level to those other kids, seriously, that right there, that by itself is so I can't even with that. I can't. They are so gross. All right, I really will put it on. I'm not going to run my mouth any longer. I'm speeding it up quick, though, because these people drive me fucking nuts.
Please be seated.
There he is, man tits.
All right, good morning, everyone. We are on the record on case CR 22-21-1623, State of Idaho versus Chad Daybell.
They are life with mommy.
At this time with the defense case in chief. The court will note all of the jurors have returned and are present. The court's also received the juror affirmation signed by each of the jurors. So thank you again for continuing to follow the court's admonishing instruction as we break each day. At this time, I believe the defense is prepared to call its next witness. Mr. Pryor, if you'd like to call your next witness, you may do so. Yes.
Thanks, Becca. Good to see you. Love you.
Okay, if you'll give us just a minute, we need
to
get our
Carla,
SDR working.
That pelvic situation has had me literally sobbing. Horrible, horrible. Oh, yeah, try me. Yes, right. Frazzled too. Yeah. Yay. Yeah, Carter, that pelvic situation had me, my stomach
All right,
sick.
we're ready to proceed,
And had me bawling.
Judge, the defense would call Dr.
Horrible.
Eric Bartling.
Solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God.
I do.
Oh, life with mommy. How sweet. It's that time of the year. We've been to one 8th grade promotion party. Yesterday was preschool graduation.
Yes, and Mr. Pryor, as I understand it, this would be testimony offers as an expert witness. Is that correct?
It is, Your Honor.
Okay, I will not inquire then on the court's exclusionary order. So if you'd like to commence with your direct examination, Mr. Pryor, you may.
Oh my God, Frazzled, I'm so sorry.
Please.
Yes, my name is Eric Bartling, E-R-I-C. Bartling is B-A-R-T-E-L-I-N-K.
And how are you employed, sir?
I'm a professor of anthropology at Chico State University and co-director of the Human Identification Laboratory.
And what is the Human Identification Laboratory?
The Human Identification Laboratory is a forensic anthropology facility, and we provide services to law enforcement throughout the state of California on the recovery and analysis of human skeletal remains related to death scenes and crime scenes.
Okay. And talk to me a little bit about what is forensic anthropology.
So forensic anthropology is a subspecialization of biological anthropology, and it's specifically focused on the analysis of human skeletal remains, including things like estimating sex, age, ancestry, stature, and also things like defects on remains related to trauma, identification methods, and scene recovery of human remains.
Now, you mentioned identification. Would that include situations where there's been suspected burning of the corpse?
The identification part's more about establishing the identity of a deceased person, but we do specialize in the study of burned remains and other postmortem alterations to the body.
Can you tell me a little bit about your educational background?
Yes, I have a BS in anthropology from Central Michigan University, a master's in anthropology from Chico State University, a PhD in anthropology from Texas A&M University.
Are there certain board certifications that you are required to participate in as part of this specialty?
Although it's not required, it's strongly recommended that practitioners become board certified, and I am board certified by the American Board of Forensic Anthropology since 2012.
Okay. Are there any affiliations or organizations that you're associated with or participate with?
There are several, and while these are not qualifications, these are indicate participation in the field. So I am a fellow of the American Academy of Forensic Sciences. and I'm the chair of the Organization of Scientific Area Committees Forensic Anthropology Subcommittee.
And how long have you engaged in the practice of forensic anthropology?
I have been involved with forensic anthropology for about 21, 22 years.
Have you done any publications or research?
Yes, I have published many articles and book chapters, as well as books related to forensic anthropology and other areas of biological anthropology.
And in regards of training of your specialty in terms of fire-caused issues related to the burning and fire, what sort of training have you had in that capacity?
So, throughout my education, I have learned about burned human remains through coursework and trainings and workshops, but I have personally assisted on over 100 burn remains cases. I assisted with like World Trade Center identification efforts, which involved a lot of burn remains. And so, and our team is the main team who does fire victim recovery for wildfire victims in the state of California.
Okay. Now, you spoke previously about part of your organization is to help law enforcement agencies. Is it primarily your position in aiding law enforcement agencies, or do you help in defense cases as well?
We don't discriminate between whether we work with the prosecution or the defense. So we have assisted the defense in cases where we thought we could provide useful information and perspective about a case.
Okay. And have you testified before in front of a court?
I have.
And how many times have you done that?
I think it's around 7 or 8 times, and then I've had other depositions.
Okay. And I think I've asked this before, but I'll ask it again. Is there any specialized knowledge or training that you would be required to have as part of your title as a forensic anthropologist?
Yes, you have to be a specialist in the anatomy and biology of the human skeleton. You would have to be able to identify postmortem alterations, including burning on human remains, and be able to properly categorize those modifications. And you have to have expertise in how to identify evidence of skeletal trauma on human remains.
Okay. Judge, I previously had marked Defense Exhibit 136. My understanding, and I won't speak for the state, but my understanding is the state has no objection to the admission of 136.
We do not, Your Honor.
All right, and Exhibit 136 then is offered and admitted. And can you explain what the exhibit is, Mr. Pryor?
The exhibit is Dr. Bartlink's report, Judge.
Thank you.
And Judge, for ease of use, and for me and probably everybody else, I'd like to utilize the ELMO. My understanding is the state has a copy of the very document as well, and I'd like, for purposes of publication, to use the ELMO device to publish.
Okay, if you'd like to publish a conforming printed copy of the exhibit on the ELMO without objection from, if there is no objection from the state, you can publish it that way.
Your Honor, we have no objection to that.
All right.
Now, Dr. Bartlink, you were contacted by my office for what purpose?
We were asked to analyze the skeletal remains of Tylee Ryan.
Okay. And I'd like you to go through the process of what steps you took to conduct that review and investigation.
Yeah, so me and my colleagues, Dr. Colleen Milligan and Ashley Kendall, came up to Rexburg, Idaho, and did an analysis of Tylee's remains on December 18th. We worked with the Rexford Police Department to unpack Tylee Ryan's remains and to sort them into anatomical position on a table so that we could conduct an analysis. We performed an inventory, which is a tabulation of all of the bones that were present. We also filled in a skeletal diagram indicating which portions of Tylee's remains were present and absent. Because she was already identified, we did not conduct estimations of sex, age, etc. But we did conduct a trauma analysis by examining each bone.
Oh, I'm
to look
so
for
glad,
any kind of
Frazzled. I'm
defects
so
or
glad. That sounds like a lot of fun.
And we also recorded the pattern of burning across the skeleton.
And the length of time in order for you.
Why would he want to bring up Tylee's
We
remains
conducted this in
again?
the span of one day, and it
Wow.
was 3 forensic anthropologists working together. And so we were able to conduct that work in approximately a 6 to 7 hour period between the 3 of us.
Okay. So 18 hours between the 3 of you approximately.
No, a total of about 6 to 7 hours with us working all together simultaneously as a team.
So but the 3 of you were all engaged in work at the same time, correct?
Correct.
So, and those folks were associates with your organization, is that correct?
Yes, they are professors that work with me in the Human Identification Lab and are professors at Chico State University.
Both PhDs,
Correct.
and both have similar experience and training as you have, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Now, as part of your review and investigation, you prepared a report, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And I'm not going to go into every word in the report, but in essence, as part of your investigation, what did you discover in regards to the inventory of the remains?
We found that there were certain areas of Tylee Ryan's remains that were absent, and this included large parts of the vertebral column, most of the left and right arms, and large portions of the legs, kind of from mid-thigh down towards the ankle on at least one of the legs.
And Judge, could I utilize the Elmo device at this point?
Yes.
So I'm showing you a illustration from your report, and there is a laser pointer up there somewhere, if you can find it. And then off to your left is a large screen. And if you could just go through in general, the areas that you found were not present at the burial site of Tylee Ryan, and then just basically describe each one for me, if you would.
Yeah, so the way that this skeletal diagram is labeled is on the left side is a front view of the skeleton, and on the right side is a back view. Anything that's colored in black was absent, which means we could not identify those portions of the body in the inventory. So we were missing a little bit of the skull from the left eye socket, a little bit here from the back of the skull. And then if we move down towards the limbs, we're missing almost all of the right arm, except for just the shoulder and a small piece of this forearm bone right here. We're missing almost the entire left arm, except for the shoulder. We are missing most of the ribs, but we were not able to label those individually because we could not determine which rib was which because they were burned and fragmented.
Okay, I'd have you stop there for just a moment, and please forgive my interruption, but when you say fragments of the ribs, is it your testimony that the majority of the rib cage was missing?
I wouldn't say the majority, but a large portion of the ribs were not represented in the inventory.
Okay.
Mr. Pryor, I apologize for the interruption. Could I have a quick sidebar with counsel, please?
Excuse me, Doctor. Judge, may I proceed?
All right. Yes. Apologies for that interruption on the sidebar. You can continue, Mr. Pryor.
So I think we were at the last we let off. We talked about. I think my comment was the majority of the rib cage, but you said instead it was a large portion of them.
That is correct.
Okay, and then can you continue with your
Oh, nice, sis.
pointing out the different
I didn't know you were going. That's cool.
remains that you were unable to
The
locate?
happiest place on earth.
Yes. So as we move down, we can see that from about the mid thigh area, these are the femur bones, all the way down to just a little bit of the top of the shin bone here, the tibia bone. No bones could be found from those areas. And we had a little bit of the right leg here, missing this section down here. And then on the left leg, we have almost nothing represented from that leg, except for a few small fragments. So we're missing fairly large portions of the skeleton.
You're missing large portions of the skeleton.
That is correct.
Now you are an expert in the area of forensic anthropology, and you mentioned that you are involved in the recovery as it relates to wildfire victims in California as well. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And that you have, and I don't know how to talk to you about this, but the part of your job is scientific testing of remains and the impact that they can have with fire. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And you conduct experiments in that regard, right?
And we have done some training exercises, and colleagues of mine have as well, where we have experimentally burned a willed body donor.
Okay, and I'm going to stop you there. What that is in a situation where someone has identified on their donor card that they would be willing to be part of a testing, scientific testing, and that's how you obtain the body to engage in your testing. Is that correct?
That is correct. And these are for training exercises for law enforcement and for search and rescue personnel.
Okay. And explain to me the process of what you did to run these tests of the will donor body.
So these tests typically involve kind of building what sort of looks like a funeral pyre out of pallets.
Okay, and when you say a funeral pyre, are we talking about a small brush fire?
It's usually multiple pallets, probably around 4 or 5.
4 or 5 pallets.
Yeah, to create enough fuel to burn the body.
So this is a large fire.
Correct.
Would the expression a bonfire be appropriate?
Yes, it would be, similar in size to a large bonfire.
Okay. And would it be
Your Honor,
possible?
at this point, I'd like to make an objection and ask for a quick sidebar.
All right, we'll have a sidebar.
More and more sidebar.
Of the jurors before we proceed further with this. So the jurors will be asked to just please stand up if you would and line up out in the hall, and we don't need a full break. I
Oh
don't
my
think this will
gosh.
take very long to get through, but we do
What
need to
the
take
hell?
up that matter. And I think the most efficient way is to do that. So apologies for the inconvenience, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, but if we could have you please exit the courtroom, we'll take up this evidentiary matter.
Oh,
All
Lord.
right, please.
All right, thank you. Please be seated. All right, Mr. Wixom, I understand the state had an objection to this stage of the testimony. If you'd like to lodge the objection, you may.
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
You can go ahead. I understood the state was proposing an objection to this particular line of questioning.
We are, Your Honor, and for the record, we are objecting to the line of questioning with regard to the experiment that it appears that witness is attempting to go into. The basis for the objection, Your Honor, is that while we did receive a 27-page report from this expert, nowhere in the report that I can see did it reference the particular experiment that's being talked about. The biggest concern the state has is under Rule 16, we're entitled to have a summary report of his conclusions, including the data and facts upon which he relied. When we received this report, we provided it to our 2 experts and had them look at the report in preparation for their own testimony. Certainly, I'm prepared here today to respond to and to deal with the conclusions in the summary report as provided, but we didn't have an opportunity to have our experts consider the way and the methodology that he may have used in this experiment we didn't know about in preparation for a potential cross-examination here, nor in preparation for the calling of our own witnesses. And so for that reason, as to the line of questioning, any reference to any experiment, we would object to that being admitted at this time.
All right, and if you'll give me a moment, I'm just briefly reviewing through the report. And so that was admitted as Defense Exhibit 136. And your proffer to the court here, Mr. Wixom, is that contained within that 27-page report, there's no mention of an experiment regarding fires. Is that what you're saying?
That's my understanding, Judge, and I believe that's been confirmed off the record.
All right,
Um,
response, Mr. Pryor.
Judge, this was part of a training exercise to show how he analyzed and determined burn marks, deciding when and where a corpse and how it was burned. So if the court would like me to rephrase it, instead of rephrasing it as an experiment, I can rephrase it as a training in order to help aid him and his organization in making the determinations that they do as part of this. I'm not suggesting in any way at this point the manner and type in which the remains of Tylee Ryan were burned. What I'm suggesting, Judge, is this was a training exercise that his organization engages in as part of his wildfire training, and that he's describing that this is the methodology that they use to do that in this particular isolated incident. I don't think it's necessary in that situation. This report would be 100 pages if I had to put in every training exercise this expert has engaged in to gain the knowledge that he has.
Okay, so to be clear here, you're referencing as part of foundation or his basis of expertise that he's done this type of training before, but what you are not intending to proffer here is some specific evidence relating to a scientific experiment that would apply to the remains in this case. Is that what I'm understanding?
That's absolutely right, Judge. This is a foundational question that deals with Dr. Bartling's experience and how he makes determinations in terms of folks who are victims of fire.
Okay. Any further argument or response from the state.
Judge, with that proffer, the state would withdraw the objection. It wasn't referenced in the report, so we didn't have a proper understanding. But if it's limited to that purpose, we withdraw the objection.
Okay, and I would find it proper in terms of foundational for expertise to be established under Rule 702. And so with the state withdrawing that, we'll go ahead. If that's where the testimony is heading, Mr. Pryor will let the jurors back in. Of course, if it were going into a realm of some specific experiment that took place relating to the evidence in this case, then likely the objection could be renewed, and I would then issue a further ruling.
And Judge, for clarity with the jury, I think what I will do is rephrase experiment, and with the defense or with the state's permission, I'll use the word training, and that might alleviate any confusion the state might have with where I was going.
Okay, and I think that would help clarify things. So thank you, counsel. We'll go ahead and have the jurors brought back in, and you can continue with your line of questioning, Mr. Pryor.
Thank you. All right.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bailiff. Please be seated. All right, Mr. Pryor, if you'd like to continue on your direct, you may.
All right, and Judge, I'll start with Dr. Bartlink. We were talking about a training that you were participating in terms of utilizing a donor, a willing donor, and engaging in the intentional burning of that donor for purposes of scientific training. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's a part of a training course.
Okay, and can you elaborate on what that encompassed?
So essentially setting up something that would be similar to a funeral pyre, but having multiple pallets stacked and cutting out sections of those pallets. So you'd have pallet underneath the donor as well as on top. And we're trying to achieve a certain level of burning in the study. And so it requires the use of a fair amount of fuel source. In this case, it was the wood pallets.
Okay, and when you're talking about a fair amount of fuel source, is that a significant amount of fuel source?
You need combustible materials, and so a body does not easily burn without having combustible materials. And so using wood is an effective way of achieving a large fire to reduce a body's mass down to the bones.
You used the expression funeral pyre. That would suggest a sizable fire.
Yeah, like a large bonfire.
Okay. And would the use of just gasoline, would that obtain the same result?
So typically accelerants don't generate enough fuel. They burn away quickly, so they don't generate enough fuel to sustain combustion of a human body for a long period of time. So usually you need other types of combustible materials.
And in regards to in regards to a funeral pyre as such, so if I understand you correctly, just the use of gasoline on a donor corpse would not achieve the burning to obtain the results you're looking for.
In my experience, no.
Okay. It would have to require a significant amount of when you say, I think you used the term fuel, that would be wood.
Could be wood or other types of combustible materials.
Okay. Okay. Something that would burn easily
That's correct.
in a large quantity
That's correct.
to generate a significant fire
Yes.
over a long, prolonged period of time
Yes.
to obtain the same result.
Yes.
Okay. Now I'd like to go back if we could utilize the Elmo again, Judge.
Yes, you may.
You pointed out in black on this illustration, all of the remains that were not present when you did your review and investigation. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Would the use of a fire be the explanation as to why you didn't have a complete skeleton?
Only partially. So there were bones that could not be identified to a specific skeletal element, but there was so much missing that was not accounted for. So I believe there are a large amount of these remains that are actually missing, but a small amount are bones that I could not identify what they were.
So you reviewed the testimony of the excavation of the site with a bulldozer. Is that correct?
I did review the reports on the excavation of the remains.
And that they used a bulldozer and took care to try to locate all of the remains. Is that correct?
I believe so, yes.
and yet they didn't have the remains.
I don't know where the missing remains are, so I can't comment on.
Okay. But in fact, you don't have all of the remains, correct?
That is correct.
And you believe that the remains cannot be determined to have been burned out or disappeared as a result of a fire. Is that correct?
Not entirely. Yes, that's correct.
And there are bones missing.
Yes.
Okay. Significant amount of bones missing, right?
Yes, you can see from the skeletal diagram, everything in black was not identified in the remains.
Now, I want to continue with your report. Were you able to make a determination as to whether the body was burned as being intact?
Based on the burn pattern, I do believe that the most likely possibility is that the body was burned as a whole, not in pieces.
Okay. And would it be fair to say you can't make a determination as to the length of time it would take to burn the body?
We could only provide sort of minimum timeframes, but there's, how much fuel is used, the size of the body, and other factors all can alter those parameters.
So there's no definitive way to determine how long it took to put Tylee's remains in the manner in which they were found. Is that correct?
That is correct.
In addition, there were some fragments, and I want to use the word fragments because in the fire pit, there were some objects that were removed from the fire pit. Do you recall seeing that?
Yes.
Are you able to determine what type of fragments those are?
Most of the bones that were in the fire pit lack diagnostic characteristics, so they could not be identified as being either human or animal.
Right. So we don't know what those fragments were. Would that be fair?
That is correct.
Okay. You noted that there was a canine mark on part of the remains of Tylee. Is that correct?
That was not something that I noted, but had been noted by the anthropologist with the FBI.
Okay. And do you recall the location of that canine mark offhand?
I believe it was on one of the shoulders, so where the shoulder connects to your shoulder blade. I don't remember if it was on the left or right side, but it's. We made those observations and did not see evidence of scavenging, but sometimes making those determinations is very challenging.
Okay. And I said canine, I meant carnivore.
Yes.
So we don't know when a carnivore may have made those marks on the body. Is that correct?
We do not, and I'm not certain if they're carnivore marks or related to the burning process.
Okay. I want to talk to you about whether you can make a determination as to where Tylee Ryan's body was burned.
I cannot make that determination.
So in other words, you can't make the determination that her body was burned on Chad Daybell's property. Is that correct?
I cannot make that determination.
And you can't make a determination as to the day or time that the body was burned. Is that correct?
That is correct.
What you can make a determination is that the body was burned intact to your best opinion. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And you can't make a determination as to whether the body was burned and then at some subsequent time placed in Chad Daybell's backyard. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Judge, I have nothing else at this point.
All right, that'll conclude the direct examination then. Mr. Wixom, I presume will be doing cross. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
Good morning, Dr. Bartlink.
Good morning.
Am I saying that correctly? It's Bartlink?
You pronounced it perfectly.
Yes, thanks. So, Dr. Bartlink, you've already, I think, shared with the jury that in preparing and in conducting your own analysis of Tylee's remains, you looked at the autopsy report that had been done on Tylee. Is that true?
That is correct.
Likewise, I think you've indicated that you did review the FBI reports from Dr. Angie Christensen and a report from Dr. Halapaska. Is that true?
I did, yes.
Okay. And you have a professional relationship, or at least a collegial relationship with Dr. Angie Christensen, don't you?
That is correct.
In fact, I believe you both published something together.
We are co-authors on a textbook.
Okay. So is it fair to say that she is a colleague that you have respect for?
Judge, I'm going to object. Witness bolstering.
Sustained.
When you reviewed her report and Dr. Halapaska's report, didn't you indicate in your own that when you compared your findings with theirs and with the autopsy, that you found no substantive difference in the analysis of Tylee's bones.
That is correct.
And you were asked a question by the defense about the ability to estimate a time with which it took to burn Tylee's remains. And I think you concluded that that's not possible. Is that right?
There are just too many variables that are unknown, so I would not feel comfortable making any kind of determination.
In fact, in your report, wasn't that a question that you were specifically asked by the defense in preparation of your analysis?
Yes,
And the question was, can you burn Tylee's bones within a 2-hour period? That's the question.
that was the question. Yes,
Okay. And as I recall from your report, you said it's possible, but you can't determine that. Is that fair?
that is correct.
Likewise, I think you were just asked a question about the ability to determine whether or not Tylee's remains had been burned on the Daybell property. Recall that question.
Yes, I believe I do.
And I think you answered that it's not possible to make that determination, correct?
That is correct.
So is it fair then to say that it may well have been that her remains were burned on the Daybell property?
Judge, objection, not for speculation.
Well, overruled.
You may answer.
It's certainly possible that she could have been burned on the property, but it's also possible that she could have been burned elsewhere.
Fair. I think you indicated that there were, no, you've already indicated that not all of the bones from Tylee's remains were found by the FBI or the search you conducted, correct?
That's correct.
And you can't tell whether or not all of the bones have been entirely burned out because you don't have all of the bones. Is that fair?
Yes, in my experience, we still would expect to find large portions of the bones that were missing even after the burning process has completed. But there are some bones that were just too fragmented to identify. So some of those could just be those bones, but there's still quite a lot not accounted for.
And didn't you indicate in your report at some point that it's possible there are still bones that remain on the Daybell property?
It's
Judge, objection, speculation.
Overruled.
that is a possibility.
And just to be clear, it's true that there were many of the remains that you analyzed that were subject to thermal damage, correct?
That is correct.
They had been burned.
Yes, that's correct.
And in fact, you had found a number of the remains to have had blunt force trauma. Is that correct?
That is correct. Blunt force defects consistent with perimortem trauma.
Yes. And with respect to defects, in fact, didn't you find that I believe the left mandible, I'm going to call it the jawbone if that's not correct. Let me know.
That is correct.
That the left mandible had been fractured. Is that correct?
That is correct.
I think in 6 different places.
I can't remember the number of places, but there were fractures to the left side of the mandible.
And you did determine that had been from a blunt force trauma.
Yes, although unable to tell if it's before or after death.
So you can't make the perimortem versus postmortem distinction, but you still believe it was blunt force trauma.
Correct.
Likewise, I think you determined in your analysis that there was blunt force trauma on the skull, the sternum, and the ribs. Is that right?
That is correct.
And there were sharp form defects in the innominate, or the hip bone. Is that right?
That's correct.
The sacrum
That is correct.
and the cervical spine.
The ones on the cervical spine are possible sharp force defects, but could not make a definitive determination on those.
And with respect to the sharp force defects, you did indicate that you can't exclude as some of the instruments that may have caused those to have been either a shovel or a pickaxe, correct?
That cannot be excluded. I believe I provided a long list of possible implements.
And in fact, I think you confirmed that some of those traumas could have been from a chopping force. Is that right?
That's correct.
And you indicated a machete may have been used.
That can't be excluded.
And I think finally, you had indicated that there had been some rib fractures. Is that right?
Yes, I believe there were at least 2 rib fractures documented in the report.
And you likewise believe that they were likely caused from blunt force trauma?
Yes, consistent with blunt force trauma.
Finally, I think in your report, you indicated that there were approximately a total of 18 sharp force defects in Tylee's bones, as well as a minimum of 16 impacts that were possible perimortem impacts on Tylee's bones. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you, sir. Your Honor, I have no more questions.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Wixom. Mr. Pryor, you can conduct redirect if you'd like.
Thank you, Your Honor. There is no distinguishable way to determine the location, I mean, the specific place where this blunt force trauma took place, is there?
There's not.
Judge, I have nothing else. Thank you.
All right. That will conclude then the testimony of Dr. Barterlink. So I'll inquire next, counsel, if he's to remain under your subpoena, Mr. Pryor.
He is not, Judge.
Okay, you are released then from the subpoena. Thank you for appearing and testifying. You can be excused. All right, Mr. Pryor, does the defense have a next witness to call?
Judge, could we have a sidebar just very briefly?
Yes.
So what now? No, you haven't missed anything good. I don't know why. I don't know what that guy said that meant anything. Didn't mean anything to me. So when are you going to be there, sis? I'm going to be in San Diego next week. Okay, we're going to have to speed this up. Looks like something's happening.
All right, thanks, everyone. At this stage of the proceedings, then, we do need to take up another issue outside of the presence of the jurors. And although it's a little sooner than typical, I think given that this will take a few moments, it's just logical to take have the jurors take the mid-morning recess. We'll take this matter up. We are back on the record at this time. If you'll give me just a moment. So going on the record on CR 2221-1623, State of Idaho versus Chad Daybell. The courtroom's open, public present. The jurors are not here. While the jurors are not present, I understand, first of all, the defense intends to rest, and in order just for efficiency, perhaps out of order here, there was an issue that came up with a proposed state's witness that would be testifying this morning. And I think in the interest of time and avoiding a subsequent break, if the parties don't have any objection, I'd like to take up that matter if we could on the proposed testimony of Deputy Cannon, I believe, is the witness. If there's something to discuss or determine outside the jury's presence, perhaps, I don't know if counsel's discussed that, but that was the information I got. So Mr. Wixom, is the state intending to call him after the defense rests?
Yes, he would be our next witness if the court allows.
Okay. And where it's going to be your witness, Mr. Wixom, if you could just make a proffer to the court about what you think may be the issue, and then I'll see if the defense has any either motion or response to his further testimony in your case in rebuttal.
Thank you, Your Honor. I might just do three things. One is what we think he'll say, why we think it's important that we be allowed to call him to say it, and then some legal authority that we think the court can look to.
All right. And before I guess we get there, I should confirm, Mr. Pryor, any objection to taking up that issue out of order before you rest?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Wixom, then if you'd like to proceed with the points you were going to make, I'll hear from the defense after that.
Thank you, Your Honor. With respect to the first point, what we believe that Deputy Cannon will testify to if you allow him to be called again is that back on October 9th of 2019, when he responded to the attempted shooting call regarding Tammy Daybell, he will testify, and I suspect adamantly, that at no time was he ever shown anything on a computer screen, any pictures. In fact, he'll testify he didn't even set foot, as I recall, into the house. If he did, it was just barely through the doorway. That's the first point of factual point. The second factual point that he would testify to is that in responding, he was in fact approached by Joe Murray, who did tell him that Joe was outside and heard Tammy scream. And so those are the two factual points. We believe that it's important because we've heard testimony very recently from Garth Daybell and from Joe Murray that we feel like we need to rebut on those very points, to contradict those points. The concern I'm sure the defense and the court will have, and we recognize it as a concern, is that we've already called Deputy Cannon. He did not testify to those points before. Well, he certainly did not testify to the point of be shown on the computer screen. I don't have the record of his earlier testimony, so I don't want to speak out of turn, but I don't recall that he testified as to the issue of Joe hearing Tammy scream. Your Honor, with the first issue of not being shown anything on a computer screen, That first came up after we released Deputy Cannon. So he was released. So he's not subject to the formal exclusionary order. We see this as a potential issue for possible taint. When he was released, he went back home. He did listen in part to Detective Kai Kamano's testimony. And I think there was a second witness that he had listened to. During Detective Kai Kamano's testimony, I think it was cross, he was asked about the issue of whether or not a picture of a paintball gun on a computer screen had been relayed or shown to Deputy Cannon. Deputy Cannon heard that, and I'll be candid, contacted our office immediately and wanted to come set the record straight. Well, he just heard testimony. So we saw that as an issue. I think we may have even approached that off the record of the court. We didn't call him back in our case in chief. But now the defense has put on this evidence. And on the first point, if the court might recall, and again, I don't want to mischaracterize how the testimony came in, but when I was cross-examining Joe Murray on the point about whether or not Joe had heard Tammy scream and had been outside, I had even opined, leaving the door open directly in my questioning, to the fact that Deputy Cannon may simply have misheard or got something wrong as a mistake. And the witness was very adamant that he did not accept that as reality. He thought it was intentionally inaccurate information. So effectively, Deputy Cannon, his character has been attacked. He's been called a liar in front of the jury. So he wishes, and I think understandably so, whether that's a big factor for this court, he wishes to be able to come and to offer what he believes is the truth, which is simply that never happened. Now, going to the taint issue, I should further tell Your Honor that when he contacted us after his testimony, we instructed him to stop watching the trial and listening, and he did. After so much time passed and then our case rested, he began listening again, and he listened to Garth Daybell's testimony as well as Joe Murray's. So I need to disclose that. As being pointed out, in our case in chief, we did try to formally call him back, and I think we addressed it with the court, and we were not allowed because he had been listening to testimony, and we understand that. Why we think it's different and why it would be unusual, Judge, is first of all, we looked to Idaho Rule of Evidence 615. It says, at a party's request, the court may order witnesses excluded so that they cannot hear other witnesses' testimony, or the court may do so on its own. But the court has full discretion to decide what to do in this instance. Then I would further just point to the court to a rule I don't often hear cited in legal proceedings, but it's nonetheless there. Rule 102 of the Idaho Rules of Evidence stands for the very basic proposition that these rules should be construed so as to administer every proceeding fairly, eliminate unjustifiable expense and delay, and promote the development of evidence law to the end of ascertaining the truth and securing just determination. The state's position is that, particularly with that first point, it simply is not true that Deputy Cannon was showed any pictures of a paintball gun on a computer screen. And frankly, on the second point, Your Honor, Deputy Cannon his character has been attacked. He's been called a liar. And so we feel like in the interest of trying to ascertain the truth and to secure a just determination on these very narrow issues that we should be allowed to call Deputy Cannon. I will note to the court, I did go back and look at an October 9th report from Deputy Cannon and then a further subsequent report of an interview of Deputy Cannon by the AG's office. And there's nothing in there that contradicts what he might testify to. Frankly, if it never happened, there'd be no reason to see any reference in the report that he was showing any pictures in a computer screen because it said it never happened. So that's really where we're at, Judge. We understand that there's an issue. He has watched testimony. We do think on these very narrow points that the court should allow us to call him.
All right, just to clarify there, Mr. Wixom, in prior testimony, and I'm of course thinking back over it as well, but you said a couple of times he's been called a liar. I don't know that the term he's a liar came out in testimony, did it?
No, I agree. That was just a characterization.
Okay, so there's been a clear contradiction, you could say, in testimony between two witnesses. I wanted to make sure I didn't recall hearing anyone refer to him as a liar other than an argument here. Is that accurate?
He never used that word, Judge, but as I recall, his characterization of Deputy Cannon's version of the facts was that there had been some intentional inaccuracy. I'll leave it at that. But he did not use an inflammatory word like liar. He did not do that.
Okay, thank you. All right, Mr. Pryor, then there's a proposal by the state in their rebuttal case to call witness Deputy Cannon. You've heard the argument and understand, I'm sure, the issues here, and also that he's also been listened to subsequent testimony. What's the response from the defense on this proposed witness testimony?
Well, Judge, there's a couple of things I'm still a bit confused about. They're going to suggest that at no time, one, that Deputy Coulter viewed a video that was claimed that he viewed. Is that one, Mr. Wixom?
Yeah, I'm not sure there's a video, but I think the testimony from the
computer.
Yeah.
It was a Google search.
Google search. Yeah. And two, at no time Deputy Coulter was inside the home. Is that the other one?
I believe that what he would say is he had just put his foot into the door and just barely crossed the threshold, but he didn't go inside the home to talk to anybody other than Tammy.
Okay, so Judge, one of my concerns is this, is that we went over his statement at the time of his testimony on cross.
And one other point, there's a second also statement about him talking to, with Joe Murray and whether he heard a scream. I think that someone said that she screamed or he heard a scream. So that's a separate issue as well that you can address if you'd like. Sorry to interrupt.
And Joe, and Judge, one of the difficulties, Your Honor, is this, is that, in reviewing Officer Coulter's report, the very first sentence of his report, and I quote, "On October 9th, 2019, at 21:40 hours, I was talking to Tamara Daybell in her front room of her home." So for Officer Coulter now to say, well, I only just stepped in. Well, that's not what that's suggesting. The first sentence says he was talking to her. And lo and behold, Judge, that computer is in the front room of the home. And he was there long enough to then identify the fact that Garth and his son, or Garth and Chad, were at the front door leading into the kitchen. The concern I have is this, Judge, is that this witness was called, he was cross-examined, and and there was the ability to recross. And now what's happening is they don't like the tone of what was testified to, and the evidence isn't favorable to them. So what they're going to do is engage throughout this rebuttal in a process of trying to discount everything that we've presented in our case in chief. And they're going to start with Officer Coulter and pick these little things that they can differentiate. And they shouldn't be allowed to do it. That's not what rebuttal is all about. They can challenge evidence, but they've excused this witness. They've excused this witness, and this witness has now been tainted by looking at all of this other evidence, by reviewing all of this other evidence. And Judge, you're right. I never called Deputy Coulter a liar. Did I challenge his accuracy of what he said? Absolutely. That's my job, to challenge witnesses as to what their statements are. And the state had a chance to recross, and they elected not to go forward any further and inquire. And now after the case is over, it's sour grapes, and they don't like what has been presented, and they've got to figure out a way to try to punch holes in any little thing they can. The only problem is this witness has already been tainted. So tainted, Judge, that he's offended by Mr. Wixom's own statement that in some way I've somehow called him a liar. Well, that sounds to me that we don't have a witness who's going to get up there and say, anything that's consistent with his report. What he's going to try to do is prove that he's not a liar. And that's not what this was designed to do. Rebuttal is a whole other purpose. And on the issue of 615, Judge, and excusing witnesses, that's designed when a case starts, and by motion, either party can make a motion to excuse witnesses. That has nothing to do with after the state rests their case, and suddenly they decide that, oops, we shouldn't have released Officer Coulter, and now on second thought, let's bring him back and let's take another crack at the defense's presentation of evidence. I wholly object to this tactic. And if the court opens this door, you're going to open the door to a litany of rebuttal that could go on for days, and it's highly inappropriate.
All right, Mr. Wixom, any responsive argument before I make a ruling here?
Very quickly, Judge. Frankly, Judge, it's certainly not a tactic. Rebuttal is something built into the rules, built into the system. It's part of the litigation of a criminal case. With respect to some more specific points, the state can't anticipate when we do release a witness that inaccurate testimony is later going to be offered by the defense. And that's what we think happened, particularly of the questioning of Detective Kayakamano. In fact, as I recall, I think it was defense counsel who offered that. No witness did. He offered that in a cross question, this idea of being shown something on a computer screen. We can't anticipate that coming in. And so certainly not a last minute tactic. What we have is a situation where evidence has came in that our witness was not directly cross-examined on or directly examined on. We couldn't foresee that these kinds of questions would come up because our position is they simply aren't true. And so we believe that we're simply applying the basic function of rebuttal, which is to consider evidence that's presented by the defense and then responding to it. That's what rebuttal testimony is. I will acknowledge again to the court, I think the fair concern is whether or not his testimony may have been tainted now by the fact that he's listened to more other portions of this case. We don't think he will be. If the court has questions, he's available for questioning by the court on the stand to explore whether or not he's been tainted, and to voir dire him or the defense counsel if the court permits that. So we certainly, we do believe that these are things that need to be addressed. We didn't have a fair chance to address them. That's what rebuttal's for. We don't think he's been tainted. And so we simply ask the court to give us the opportunity.
All right. Well, I'm considering this. I will note a couple of things. First of all, in terms of the propriety or impropriety of calling him in rebuttal, I do agree with the state's argument here that in a case, the state bears the burden. And so it is the state that's allowed an opportunity for rebuttal witnesses to come in and testify. In this instance, there were some narrow topics that came up in the course of the defense case in chief, which are subject to rebuttal, including this issue of whether or not there was, showing of pictures on a Google search in the residence, as was testified to contradictorily between the witnesses, and also comments that the deputy said, including whether someone said they heard a scream. So it's not improper in any way to allow for rebuttal of those statements. The thing the court is weighing a little more cautiously here is whether or not now the court should permit the witness to return after the witness has been observing or listening in on the testimony. And the court would note that the exclusionary rule under 615 governs that. It's discretionary with the court. There's a lot of cases out there that say that. State versus Slauson, 124 Idaho 753. The granting or denying of a request for exclusion under 615 is a discretionary decision of the trial court. And whatever the remedy is also up to the court in its discretion, according to State versus Christensen, 100 Idaho 631. So I don't have any hesitation determining that this would be appropriate rebuttal. The real question then is whether or not the witness testimony has potentially been tainted, where the witness, having been released by the state, observed the trial proceedings, and the witness would be placed under oath and sworn to tell the truth. So I'm not making any speculation that Deputy Coulter Cannon would not just come in and tell the truth, but the observation of that trial testimony on those very points is somewhat concerning, where the court ordered an exclusionary order for the witnesses when this case started because of the manner in which public access has been provided, and the whole case has been live streamed. And essentially, when witnesses are permitted to view and listen to other testimony, whether they do it intentionally or subconsciously, there's certainly an opportunity for a witness to know, exactly what they're going to be asked about, how they would respond to that, think through what some other witness said. And in a typical trial, you just wouldn't be allowing the witness to sit in and watch other witnesses to prepare for additional testimony. So quite honestly, I have vacillated back and forth on the second part of whether or not his observation of the testimony should result in him being excluded from offering this rebuttal testimony. Clearly, the door was opened by the testimony that was given in the defense case in chief. But upon weighing out the discretionary function the court has here and looking at whether or not I think there might be some prejudice that could result from allowing the witness to return and testify after hearing the contradictory testimony, does cause me some real concern. And so and I very much appreciate the candor of the state in revealing that Deputy Cannon has listened to the testimony, which further goes to me indicating I think he's clearly and honest in the testimony he's provided at trial in terms of at least what he's testified to under oath and his recollections, as well as notifying by proffer to the state and again to the court that he has in fact heard some of this testimony. So I have no reason to personally question his credibility, but again, the ability to have heard that testimony, and even if it's subconsciously just being allowed to prepare for that, I think ultimately is at least an appearance of impropriety, or perhaps an unfair advantage a witness would have if they took the stand on those very issues, knowing exactly what somebody else testified to. So the court is going to not permit his testimony in the case in rebuttal on those topics, not because they're improper rebuttal, but because in this particular instance on these particular topics, he was able to know precisely what was testified to. And with the defense objection, I think it is proper that the jury will be just left to consider not which version of the events they do believe. So for that reason, I am going to grant the motion of the defense to exclude the testimony of Deputy Cannon. So that's going to be the court's ruling on that issue. Mr. Pryor, do you have any questions on that?
No questions, Judge.
Any questions from the state?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you, counsel, for bringing that up to my attention outside the presence of the jurors. At this time, then, we'll go ahead and bring the jurors back in, and then is the state going to have additional rebuttal witnesses today?
Yes, Your Honor, we're prepared to call another witness.
Okay, thank you, counsel. We'll have the jurors return to the courtroom then, and then Mr. Pryor, where we left off is without you having yet rested. So I'll bring up that issue in the juror's presence, and then we'll proceed if there's rebuttal witnesses by the state this morning.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, please. Please operate as an account for your honor.
All right, thank you. Please be seated. Okay, we're back on the record now on KCR 2221-1623, State of Idaho versus Chad Daybell. We had a morning recess, went much longer than anticipated, but we were conducting some court matters outside the presence of the jurors and as well as other matters that led to the break being extended. So I appreciate everyone's patience as we move through the morning. When we left off, I had inquired whether or not the defense had another witness to call at this time in its case in chief. Mr. Pryor, does the defense have another witness at this time?
There will be no further witnesses, Your Honor. Defense at this time rests its case.
All right, thank you, Mr. Pryor. At this time then, what occurs next is an opportunity for the state to present any rebuttal testimony through rebuttal witnesses. Does the state intend to call any rebuttal witnesses?
We do, Your Honor. At this time, we're prepared to call Lisa Marie Jensen.
Very well. If you want to call your rebuttal witness, then we'll have that witness brought in and sworn.
Solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Yes. Okay.
It's a little bit weird.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, Ms. Jensen's been sworn. Before we have further testimony on rebuttal, Mr. Wixom, I am going to inquire on the court's exclusionary order. Ma'am, have you observed any of the trial testimony that's occurred since this case started?
No, I have not.
Okay, have you talked to anyone else about any testimony they have given in trial?
No.
Okay, thanks for your responses. Mr. Wixom, if you'd like to inquire on direct, you may.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ma'am, will you please state your full name for the record and spell it?
Lisa Marie Jensen, LisaMarieJensen.
Thank you. And can you please tell the jury, where is it that you live?
I live in Sugar Salem, Idaho.
And what do you do for a living?
I am an educator at Central Elementary
And where is that school at?
in Sugar Salem,
Yeah.
Sugar City.
Do you know a Tammy and an Emma Daybell?
Yes, I do.
Tell the jury how you know them.
I run our Title I department and I supervise paras, and I hired Emma as one of my paraprofessionals before she was hired as a third grade teacher. So we worked together, and Tammy Daybell was our librarian and computer specialist.
And I want to draw your attention back to 2019, particularly the beginning of the school year. During that time frame, was Tammy someone who you would regularly interact with or see at the school?
Yeah.
Can you explain what occasions you'd have in the line of your work to interact with her?
Yeah, we didn't, our jobs didn't align necessarily. She was the librarian. Many people often think, oh, you're the reading specialist, so you must work closely. But we just were mostly friends and colleagues at the school.
Did you see her do her work at the school?
Yeah.
How often would you see her doing her work?
A couple times a week.
Okay. And what kinds of things do you recall observing her do while she was working?
She ran our library. She did our computer specialist. She was our go-to if there was something that needed to be done and we didn't know who to do it. Tammy was our girl.
Did you have a chance to observe any physical activities that she did at her work?
Judge, I'm going to object at this point. It's going beyond the scope.
Overruled.
You may answer.
Will you repeat the question?
Did you have an opportunity to observe any physical activities that Tammy did at her work?
Just normal day-to-day physical activities, yes.
Could you describe some of those things to the jury, please?
As educators, we're just on our feet a lot. She was back and forth between the library and the computer lab. She also did recess duty, so she was just all over the school a lot. She was busy.
Overall, do you feel like you had the opportunity to make general observations about her health and wellness?
Sure.
What did you observe about Tammy?
About her health,
Yes, ma'am.
that she was well and healthy, and she strived to keep herself that way.
Judge, I'm going to object at this point without any additional foundation.
Overruled.
Any other observations about her health?
She was well.
You just used the word, she strived to keep herself that way. Can you explain to the jury what you meant by that word?
Yeah, she every day, even if she had on a dress, she would wear her tennis shoes. I loved that. She she aimed to get steps in. She participated in exercise
Judge,
classes.
I'm going to object at this point without some additional foundation.
I'll sustain that.
You just mentioned something about steps in. Can you explain to the jury what was the observation that you made and when did you make it about seeing Tammy get her steps in?
I don't know when I would have made that observation, just in the time that I knew her, but she would wear a Fitbit. She exercised frequently.
Judge, I'm going to object at this point and move to strike. There's no foundation to support that.
It's overruled. You can cross on that, Mr. Pryor.
Did Tammy ever, particularly during that last few weeks before her passing, did she ever complain about being sick or feeling unwell?
No.
Do you remember her missing work at all?
No.
In the context of observing her do her work, the physical aspect, did you ever notice her to get tired or exhausted?
No.
Did she ever seem winded to you?
No.
Your Honor, at this time, I have a line of questioning that may involve an evidentiary issue. I think it can get resolved in a sidebar. I don't think it should be brought up in the presence of the jury, but may I ask to have a sidebar?
Yeah, we can have a quick sidebar, counsel.
So I wonder what you guys are thinking about this. I was outside with the boy when I was listening. Hey, lovely. Well, from my perspective, I will tell you guys, I've been to Disney World several times. I've been to Disneyland several times. I prefer Disneyland. That's just me, but just saying. We went to, okay, Louise. Oh my goodness. We went to Disney World once for a Christmas celebration. It was so pretty. I love their parades and all that stuff. That's one of my very favorites.
Give me just a moment, counsel.
But,
All right,
you
in the
know,
sidebar, the court was shown a potential statement that counsel for the defense has been able to review. I don't want that statement published to the court in the objection, but Mr. Wixom, is the proffered statement going to be elicited through a question to this witness?
It would be, Your Honor, yes.
And Mr. Pryor, is there an objection to that proffered statement?
Judge, I do have an objection. It's not only hearsay, double hearsay. Judge, it's also improper impeachment.
Okay. Mr. Wixom, what would be your response, knowing that counsel has reviewed that as well as the court, without again referring to any specifics of the statement? what exception would the state argue would apply to have this not be a hearsay statement?
Certainly, Your Honor. In fact, the state takes the position that we don't need an exception because it's not being offered to prove the truth of the matter asserted. It would be offered for the purposes explained on the sidebar. We certainly don't offer the particular statement or its substantive proof. It's contrary to what the state believes. We offer it as an evidentiary point that we think, frankly, is rebuttal to testimony given earlier.
All right. The court's considered this proposed statement and the hearsay rules. Looking at Rule 801C, the court would determine that for the purposes stated by the state, that it's not being offered to prove the truth of the matter asserted, that it isn't a hearsay statement. So for that reason, the objection's overruled, and you can continue with your direct, Mr. Wixom.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ma'am, again, calling your attention to the time after Tammy died in 2019. Did Emma ever make a statement to you about why she believed or how she believed that her mother had passed?
Yes.
What did she say to you?
She said that it was related to a blood clot. That's what the doctors were suspecting.
And that was the reason she gave you for her mother's
First
passing?
time I've heard blood clot. Sorry, but I have not heard that one.
Your Honor, I don't have any further questions.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Wixom.
Wow.
Mr. Pryor, you may cross.
Good morning. Pam, can you tell me on a weekly basis how often you'd have contact with Tammy Daybell?
A handful of times.
What's a handful?
I worked in that building 2 to 3 days a week, so 2 to 3 days a week.
And for what length of time, the 2 or 3 days a week that you would work with her, would you have contact, meaning more than
Right.
just a casual walk by?
Life with mommy. I have never heard that.
Probably
anyone.
one time a week.
And when you had the one time a week, actually, that you would have this contact, was it just a brief hi or was there discussion?
There was discussion
And how long would that discussion take place once a week?
anywhere from 5 to 20 to 30 minutes if we were eating lunch together.
Okay, and you had a habit of eating lunch with Tammy, is that right?
No, I did not.
Okay, so when would the 20 to 30 minutes, if you didn't eat lunch with her, come from then?
It was not a habit, but it happened in our time together.
Okay, and how often?
Wow,
during your
the
time
fucking
together
hatefulness.
did you have time to sit down for 20 or 30 minutes and have
Oh
these
my
meaningful talks
God.
with Tammy?
If on the rare occasion that we ate lunch together, we would do that. She would come into my room in the mornings more often.
Okay.
I have 5 other women that work in my room, and she enjoyed spending time with them as well. We're all readers, as was she, and she loved to share book ideas with us, and she enjoyed to chat with the other women in my room and myself.
And in this relationship then, would Emma also be one of those to go in the books and do this as well?
Not when no, she was not working for me at that time. She was a 3rd grade teacher at that time.
Okay, and Tammy was the librarian, is that right?
Correct.
And would you agree with me, this is a relatively small school?
Yes.
And when I say small, how would you define small?
15 teachers of regular classes, myself, librarian, PE teacher, principal.
So not a significant amount of distance between one end of the school and the other end of the school. Would that be fair?
That would be pretty subjective, I guess.
Okay. And would it be fair to say that you didn't share the same relationship with Emma that you shared with Tammy in terms of contact?
I probably have a closer relationship with Emma.
Now?
Yes, I still consider Emma my friend.
Okay. But at the time, these once a week meetings of a significant amount of time were with Tammy though, right?
Correct.
And you would describe Tammy as someone who was a bit of an introvert?
Objection, Your Honor. In the state's testimony.
Overruled. It's just a leading question.
Would you consider Tammy a little bit of an introvert?
No, she was a very friendly person. She felt very comfortable in our school and among our
Right,
colleagues. We're a
Frazzle?
very close, tight-knit school, and
God.
she always felt very comfortable around all of our colleagues.
So you would then say she was an outgoing person?
At school, yes, which is where I knew her.
Okay. And this outgoing person who had met with you once a week would talk about books, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Would talk about what's going on in the school.
Sure.
And then at that time when you were having meetings and doing these once a week meetings with Tammy, you weren't at the same time doing the same thing with Emma, right?
Not at the same time because Emma was in her classroom.
Okay. But at some point, were you doing the same thing, meeting with Emma once a week and spending these deep, meaningful discussions with her as well?
Emma is my friend. So
Okay.
I would have discussions with her like I would any other friend.
Okay. And this close friend, you describe Emma as a close friend?
Yes.
And this close friend decided with another person
Wow,
that she works
listen
with
to
at a
him.
school,
How was that
is going to
helpful?
confide in her a very private
I don't get
issue
it.
about her mother's.
Objection, argumentative, Your Honor.
Sustained.
So are you suggesting that Emma would share with you
Wow.
a very private issue about her mother's death? Is that what you're suggesting?
It wasn't a private issue. Her mother had passed away and she was sharing the cause.
Well, don't you consider that a private issue?
Objection, argumentative.
No,
Nothing
no.
else, Judge. Thank you.
What do you mean
Well, I'm gonna
private?
Rule on that objection. Those questions and answers will stand. Mr.
Oh,
Nixon, if you'd
my
like to
God.
redirect, you may.
Your Honor, I have no further
Wow.
questions.
Okay, that will conclude the testimony of the witness then. Is there any reason she'd remain under subpoena from the state?
No, Your Honor.
Not
Okay.
from the defense, Judge.
All right, you're released. Thank you for appearing and testifying today. You're welcome.
You know, if you don't already know that somebody is sick and, you know, not doing well, it's completely normal to ask
All right, the
how
state can
they
call us next
died.
rebuttal witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The state will call McKay Abeglin.
Seriously, right? Those very private conversations. Shut the fuck up. My God, I can't. I just don't understand. He cannot think that's helpful to be attacking these people.
solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about
You
to
guys
give
are the weirdos who don't care about dead people on your property. Everybody else thinks like a normal damn person. Oh my God, I cannot with this guy.
Okay, thank you.
All right, the court will note now the witness has been sworn. Before we begin with direct examination, I'll just inquire, Mr. Abeglin, have you listened to any of the testimony that's taken place in this trial, either through the live stream or any other way observed any trial testimony?
Yes, it was.
Not.
It was. And I don't
Okay,
know
have you
why
talked
the
to anyone
hell he
else
would
about
want
anything
that.
they've testified to in this
Why
trial?
he would bring that
No.
guy out there.
Okay, thank you for those
That's what I said,
responses. Ms.
Louis,
Blake,
I
you
don't
can
get
inquire on
that.
direct.
Thank you, Your Honor. Would you please state your
Yeah.
name and spell it for
Why
the
would you
record?
ask that guy to come say
Jason
that?
McKay Abeglin. That's
Her jaw,
JASONMACKAY
really?
ABEGGLEN.
And do you
This
go
gets
by McKay?
worse every
Yes.
time.
Mr. Abeglin, do you know an individual named Garth Daybell?
Yes, I do.
How do you know him?
We worked together at a haunted attraction called the Haunted Mill.
And where's the Haunted Mill located?
It's in Teton, Idaho.
And when you say Teton, Idaho, is that the city of Teton?
Yes.
Do you recall approximately when you worked there with Garth?
I started working there, I think, in 2016, and we had worked together for quite a few years. But I worked like right next to him the year of 2019. We worked
Hey, Gerri.
really close.
And when you say you worked right next to him, can you explain a little bit what you mean by that?
He was just one room over from mine. And so if it was slower, we could like talk to each other and stuff. So,
And with the Haunted Mill, typically how long is that open? Is it a seasonal attraction?
yep, it's open for roughly the month of October.
And so in October of 2019, you were working in close proximity to Garth.
Yes.
At some point, did you and Garth develop a friendship?
Yeah, we did.
Did you sometimes hang out outside of work?
We went to a few haunted houses together after the season had ended. Yeah.
Did you hang out when you were at work
Hey,
and
Queenie.
associate with each other?
Yes.
Exactly, Louis.
Did Garth generally
Because
talk
I
to
hadn't
you
heard that
about
part.
any issues within his family?
Nope.
Do you recall
You're right.
an
Every
occasion
time we
when
hear
he did
anything,
share
it just
something with
gets
you
so
about
much
some family
worse.
issues?
He told me it was the following weekend after his mom's passing. He talked about that.
What do you recall him telling you about that?
I
telling you,
remember
that
he
girl
said
fought
that he found her
to
when he
the
got home from
end.
work, and he didn't know where his father was. And I don't remember if he said that she was in the bed or next to the bed, but she said she was kind of pale and her lips were blue.
We're not going to do that. We're not going to do that.
On a typical night, when would work end at the Haunted Mill?
We usually left work around 12:30ish. Depending on how busy it was, we would go later. So some nights we'd go until like 1 or 1:30. But
And your understanding from what Garth told you was when he got home, he found his mother.
yeah,
And at that time, her lips were blue and she was pale,
yes,
and that he did not know where his father was.
correct.
I have no further questions.
All right.
Okay, here you go. The many stories of Garth, right?
All right, Mr. Pryor, cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Wow.
Sir, what was the work schedule at the Haunted Mill?
We would open
Right?
around 7:30 and then it would go to midnight, but we weren't
My
able to
God.
leave until the rest of the customers made it through the attraction.
And what days of the week would the Haunted Mill be open during the month, just the month of October, correct?
Correct. And it would be open. They changed their schedule. I think the last
I
2
know.
weeks of the month, it was full-time, and then
I have not
the
heard
rest of the
this.
month, it was just on the weekends.
So if I understand correctly, that the last 2 weeks of October would be
Oh my
every day?
God.
Yes.
Did that include Sundays?
No.
So it was Monday through
Right?
Friday or Monday through
And
Saturday?
I thought he
Monday
came
through
home and
Saturday.
he saw him and heard his dad snoring in bed.
And the day that the Haunted Mill would close would be the
This
31st
Garth
of
has
October?
told several different
Correct.
stories. I can't
I know.
remember what he
Mhm.
said to
Okay.
Dateline in
And,
48 hours, but it
do
was
you know the
different
day
than
that
what he
Tammy
said in
Daybell died?
court.
I do not.
Okay. So when you told the prosecuting attorney that it was the week after her passing, if you don't know what day she died, how do you know it was a week after her passing?
Garth he took a day off after it happened, and then he was back the following weekend. So it's just when I saw him next.
Okay. So it was the following weekend after the date that Tammy allegedly passed away.
Correct.
Did he mention anything about attending funeral services or any memorials the following weekend?
No, he did not.
Did he say anything about having to do visits with his church or anything like that as part of any program the weekend after that?
No, he did not.
Okay. Did he, so he indicated that she was, she had blue lips and she had already passed, is that right?
Correct.
Did he indicate to you that at that time he played video games until 3 o'clock in the afternoon?
Objection, Your Honor, misstates testimony.
Overruled.
Did he say anything to you about the fact that he was playing video games until 3 o'clock that evening? Sir,
No, he did not.
did he say anything about hearing snoring coming from the room that night as well, sir?
No, he did not.
And you and Garth would be such close friends, you went to 2 haunted houses in 3 years?
Objection, Your Honor, misstates the testimony. Argumentative.
Sustained.
Move to strike.
I'll strike that question.
My
So how many,
God.
you mentioned that you went to a couple of haunted houses, is that right, sir?
Yeah, we
We were
did
so
that all on the
close
same
and had
night.
all these
The
private
same night as what?
things going
It
on.
was, I think, the following weekend after our attraction had closed. We just went and visited some other places that were still open.
On the 31st. Who went with you?
It was myself, Garth, Kara Briggs, and Emma Moss.
And this revelation that he supposedly made to you
Objection,
occurred,
Your Honor, argumentative. Move to strike.
Sustained.
and this statement that he made to you supposedly occurred when during this visit?
Objection, Your Honor, again, argumentative with the word supposedly. Move to strike.
I'll sustain that as well, Ms. Pryor.
Can you tell me when and time, date the statement was made to you, sir?
I was still at work at the Haunted Mill. There were a few other scare actors around us at the time. It was a little bit closer to the end of the shift. Garth was pretty quiet most of the night, and then I kind of went up to him and gave him my condolences, and then that's when he told me that he had found her.
So you weren't particularly close friends, would that be fair?
Yeah, more like close coworkers.
Okay. And this
Again,
close
people
coworker
talk to people
disclosed
about
to you
things
something
like
very
this.
personal about his mother's
Oh
death,
my
is that
God.
right?
Objection,
Stop
Your
it.
Honor, calls for speculation.
Overruled.
This close
It is,
this-
because
this
what is
close
he?
coworker decided on one day just to disclose a very personal matter about his mother's death to you. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, nothing else, Judge. Thank you.
All right.
Fuck off. Stop acting like that.
Ms. Blake, redirect.
Very personal, private matter that nobody will
Mr.
ever
Baglin,
know.
when Garth talked to you
My
about
God.
finding his mother, how did
I
he appear?
cannot.
He did seem sad, so I could tell something was affecting him.
And was he clear to you in his statement that he's the one that found his mom?
Yes.
And was he clear in his statement that his dad wasn't there?
Yes.
I have no further questions.
All right. That will conclude the testimony then of Mr. Baglin. I don't know if he was here under subpoena from the state, but if so, can he be released, Ms. Blake?
Yes, Your Honor, he may be released.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you for your testimony. You can step down. All right. Does the state have another rebuttal witness to call today?
Yes, Your Honor, the state will call Detective Bruce Mattingly.
solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
All right, before we proceed with direct on this rebuttal witness, Detective Mattingly, have you observed any of the trial testimony that's taken place since you were last here?
No,
Have you talked to anyone else about the testimony they've given since you were last here?
no.
All right, thank you for responding to those questions. Ms. Blake, if you'd like to inquire on direct, you may.
Thank you. And Detective Mattingly, since it's been a moment since you've been here, would you please remind the jurors where you currently are employed?
Fremont County Sheriff's Office,
And how long have you been employed there?
about 23 years,
What is your current title or position?
Detective Sergeant.
Have you held other positions within the Fremont County Sheriff's Office?
I have, I worked patrol and school resource officer.
And at some point, did you personally become involved in an investigation into Tammy Daybell's death?
I did,
Do you recall approximately when you became involved?
about mid-December.
And was that of
2019.
2019? And again, is it fair to say that you also were involved in the investigation into the whereabouts of JJ Vallow and Tylee Ryan?
Yes,
Were you also involved in the investigation regarding their deaths?
I was.
At some point, do you recall receiving the results of the autopsy for Tammy Daybell?
Yes,
Do you know if anyone of Chad and Tammy's children reached out to the sheriff's office?
Judge, I'm going to object without some sufficient foundation.
Overruled.
And specifically in relation to the autopsy?
I do.
And who reached out?
Emma Daybell or Emma Murray.
Do you know at any point if anyone attempted to make contact with Emma Murray in relation to her request?
Yes, I learned that Detective Kai Kakamanu had attempted to reach
Judge,
out.
I'm going to object without foundation.
Overruled.
I learned that Detective Kai Kakamanu had reached out to, or attempted to reach out to Emma and Garth with no response or callback.
Based on that, at some point, did you do something in relation to the autopsy results and Emma Murray?
I did.
What did you do?
So where none of the family members were able to,
Judge, I'm going to object as non-responsive.
Overruled.
where none of the family members were contacted or had been found, we formed a team and we split up to make contact with most of the Daybell children.
And was that to make contact in relation to the autopsy?
That specifically, yes.
And who specifically were you going to attempt to make contact with?
I was attempting to make contact with Emma.
Do you recall approximately when you attempted to make contact with her?
February 18th, 2021, or after school had let out, so maybe around 4:30.
And well, you said after school had let out. Do you know where Emma was working at that time?
She was working as a teacher at Central Elementary in Sugar City.
And did you attempt to make contact with her at the school?
Yes,
And you said it would have been after school let out?
yes,
Did anyone else go with you to try to make that contact?
yes. That would be Lieutenant Ron Ball with Rexburg Police Department.
And prior to this attempt to make contact, had you personally had any involvement with Emma Murray?
Not personally, no.
You'd not had personal contact with her prior to this?
No.
Were you ultimately able to make contact with Miss Murray that day?
Yes, we did.
Did you have some kind of a recording device on?
Yes,
And was a recording made of that attempt to contact her?
there was.
Your Honor, I have what's been marked as State's Exhibit 427, and defense already has a copy. And the state's intent would be to ultimately ask to publish a portion of that for identification purposes unless there's a stipulation for admission.
There's no stipulation.
Okay, so without stipulation, you may just publish just enough without any content, obviously, that would influence the jury if it doesn't come in, just enough to establish foundation. I'll permit that.
Thank you, Your Honor. And if I may have that, and I'll play from the exhibit for the court.
Very well.
It's been a while, Rick. Yeah. How you been? It's been.
And I'll pause right there. Detective Mattingly, do you recognize the voices in that recording?
I do.
And who are those voices we're hearing?
Myself and Principal Rich Gardner.
Does this in fact appear to be a correct depiction of the audio recording that you made that day?
Yes.
Your Honor, based on that, the state would move for the admission.
Any objection?
No.
All right, exhibit 427 is admitted.
And Your Honor, the state would intend to play the exhibit partway through.
All right, if you'll please identify the portions you play when you publish.
And Your Honor, the state will begin to play from minute mark 5:50.
I hit the wrong door. Now you're going to go to the front. I apologize. I'm Bruce Mattingly with Fremont Sheriff's Office, and the sheriff said that you've been working at trying to get a hold of us.
Yes.
And to talk on the autopsy results. We've been trying to get a hold of you and other family members, but probably been a comedy of errors. We haven't been able to do so.
Okay.
And which is why we showed up here, because we'd like to be able to talk with family, you, because I know you were the one that made a request,
Yes.
right? So we'd like to be able to do that. And
I'm going to pause here momentarily. Do you know who that female voice is that we're hearing?
That was Emma Daybell.
And did you hear in there where she confirmed she was the one that had requested the autopsy results?
Yes.
I'm going to continue playing. I stopped it at 6:31 for the benefit of the record, and I'll continue playing from 6:31.
because you're here and we're here, want to take a few minutes and talk about that and go over that? Or? Okay. Who is the attorney so we can contact?
So we've worked with Josh Garner before, but right now we don't have an attorney-client relationship with any particular attorney.
Okay. So we
decided we're gonna wait to learn what it is when you're ready to release it.
okay. That is a choice, but damn it, we usually just let family, we always let family know. Personally, I've not had anybody really say that they want to wait. That's a little.
We're just not interested in interviewing, answering any questions. We just want to see it.
Sure.
Not-
We'd like to at least let you know what's in it, and tell you about it. We're not asking for an interview.
I'm going to pause right there, Detective Mattingly. Did you hear Emma again decline to see the results?
Yes.
And what did you tell her in relation to whether or not she would have to be subjected to an interview?
I told her she didn't have to do an interview.
For the record, stopped at minute mark 7:35, and I'll continue playing from there.
So, and of course, like now, if you're always free to leave, you can tell us we're done, anything. We're not looking to ask questions. We do want to just let you know the findings.
And again, stopping at 7:45, Detective Mattingly, did you again hear yourself confirm she would not have to provide information?
Yes.
And starting again from 7:49.
And then later the report will, attorneys will get everything. But where we know it's back, you know it's back, we want to let family know.
Okay.
And let people know what the results are. We can't go in depth on the report, but we can talk and give general findings, at least for now. So would you like that? Would you like to do that? What are your, okay, do you want me to set that up with Josh?
I'll have him call you.
Okay, can I give you my card so he knows who to call? That'd be great. This is the number, right?
Yep.
So I said that. He knows me, knows my number. I also, just for preparatory, I was hoping to find you. I'm glad I did. This number on the back is for victim services, which helps with counseling and anything else because you lost your mom. That's what this number's for, is to help with that. Okay. It is our prosecutor's office. You don't have to talk to the prosecutor. Just say, hey, I'm looking for help with victim services. Here, I'll give you that. And that's for you, for the kids, the rest of your siblings. Okay. And then Josh, he can. You have Josh's number?
Yeah.
Okay.
And pausing at 9:23, Detective Mattingly, did you in fact offer Miss Marie contact information for victim services?
I did.
Did you also offer her contact information for the prosecutor's office?
Yes.
What did you expressly tell her in relation to the prosecutor's office?
To call the prosecutor's office for the help with the victim services. And more specifically, she didn't have to talk with anyone with the prosecutors.
And playing from 9:23.
All right. Are they building a new school over there?
They are. We're
Which one is
growing.
that?
So that's gonna be a junior high, and then they're taking third grade out of the school. This is K through 3. They're moving third grade over there. That's 4 through 6 right now, and then sixth grade. Yeah, I'm moving over there across the field, and then they're moving 6th grade over there. There's a junior high down the road that they'll move over there, and then the high school will stay the same. So just trying to wait until it's finished. It was supposed to be done by this fall, but
For sure. So, are you increasing more principal?
no, it'll be the current principal of the junior high. I'm not sure what they'll use that building for.
Okay.
There was talk about it being a YMCA, but that was just a Sugar City rumor.
I know how small town rumors go.
Yeah, I think they just want a swimming pool, but yeah, so it'll be mostly just rotation.
All right. So I do want to let you know, because we've been having difficulties trying to get a hold of people. Today was the day that we were able to get other deputies, officers to go out and try to find them a contract one way or another.
Okay.
So if you hear from other family members or you don't, it might be dependent upon if we were able to find them or not. Okay. So I don't want that to be a big thing. I just want to let you know, hey, we haven't been able to get hold of anybody. It's important to be able to let people know or have that opportunity. That's what we were working on. So,
Okay.
okay.
Thank you.
I'm pausing at 11:13. Detective Mattingly, you were informing her that other family members were going to be contacted. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Do you know who some of the other family members that contact was going to be attempted with?
Judge, objection on foundation.
Sustain.
Based on the investigation, did you discuss things with other investigators?
Yes.
And you indicated that you had met and talked about going out to try to provide results to some of the kids, the autopsy results.
Yes,
Do you know who some of the other individuals from the family were that contact was going to be attempted with?
I do.
And who was that?
Judge, objection, still insufficient foundation.
Overruled.
Gareth Daybell, Seth, and Leah.
And was the attempt to reach out to some of those kids going to be done around the same time you were attempting contact with Emma?
Yes,
And at the end of that, did you hear Emma tell you thank you?
she did.
And there was some conversation between you, Emma, and Lieutenant Ball. Did you also hear that?
I did.
I'm going to continue from 11:13.
Josh knows how to get a hold of me. We've talked before, both Vince, he knows how to get a hold of Vince, our office, we're not that big. So have him give us a call, then we can go out and sit down with the interview and talk about it. Okay? I think he said always think about he was representing one sure, so that is true. He did reach out and he said, Emma, we're gonna do a schedule, but he says, as far as I know, I'm not representing, but maybe things have changed.
Okay.
So get that ball rolling. I'd like you to know about that.
Okay.
Okay. But I'm not gonna make anything up or make you do anything. I do want to let you know.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you. Yep.
And stopping at 12:14 or 12:15. Detective Mattingly, at the time you were attempting to share these results with Miss Murray, was this still an active investigation?
It was.
And is it fair to say you were not going to provide her a copy of the autopsy at that time based on that?
Correct.
But you were willing to sit down and go over some of the results with her?
Yes.
There was some talk about an individual named Josh. Do you know who that was in reference to?
I do. That was in reference to attorney Josh Garner.
At any point, did you attempt to make contact with Josh Garner about this?
We did.
What did you learn?
Judge, objection is going to call for hearsay.
Sustain.
Your Honor, and I would argue it's not coming in for the truth of the matter, but for why the officer did what he did next.
Judge, it's absolutely coming in for the truth of the matter.
I'm going to sustain that as hearsay, Ms. Blake.
In the recording, did you hear yourself reference that he'd indicated he wasn't actually representing the kids?
Yes.
And was that in reference to Josh Garner?
Judge, I'm going to move to strike.
It was in the recording.
Overruled.
Yes.
Did Emma ever reach out to the Fremont County Sheriff's Office again in an attempt to get the results?
No.
When you met with Emma, did she tell you anything about concerns regarding her mother's health?
Judge, objection.
Overruled.
She did not.
At the very end of the recording, you say something along the lines of, I do want to let you know. What was that in regards to?
It's in regards to the findings from the autopsy results.
So you wanted to make sure that Emma Marie had access and knew the results of that autopsy.
Yes,
And again, Emma Marie declined to hear those results.
she did.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
All right. All right, Mr. Pryor, cross-examination.
Good morning, Detective.
Good morning.
Would you characterize Emma as being polite on that day?
She was.
Responsive?
Yes.
Okay. Now, the autopsy was performed on December 11th of 2019. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you obtained the results on February 18th of 2021?
No, we had to obtain those earlier.
Well, how much earlier did you obtain the results?
I don't recall.
Okay. Well, was it a week?
Probably a little longer.
Was it a month?
Could be about close to that.
Is it possible it was a year you had the results?
No.
Okay. So we know it was close to a month. Is that what you recall?
Thereabouts, yes.
Okay. And you held the results, correct?
Yes.
And then at some point you elected to go notify the family. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And at the time of the autopsy on December 11th, 2019, well, let me go back. On February 18, 2021, providing the family with the results, that wasn't any kind of an investigative concern, was it?
No.
Okay. And a month earlier, when you had the results, was there some sort of investigative concern with providing the family notification of why their mother was exhumed and an autopsy was done? Officer?
Yes.
What?
Would you repeat the question?
Yeah. The month before, while you held on to the autopsy, is there some investigative concern as to why you didn't let her know right away?
Yes.
And what was the investigative concern?
On whether or not we can release the autopsies, whether we can provide a copy,
Okay.
and how best to go about doing that without violating any rights or with the investigation going on.
So you were concerned about the investigative and not concerned about the rights of the family to know why you exhumed the
Objection, Your
mother?
Honor. This is argumentative and it misstates the testimony just given.
Sustained.
So was there a concern about protecting the investigation? Or was there a concern about holding on to the results until you chose the time to let the family know?
Objection, Your Honor. Argumentative.
Overruled.
You can answer that.
Repeat the question, please.
Was the concern over an investigation, officer? Or was the concern for a month that you wanted to figure out how you were going to tell the family and when?
Both, I would say.
Okay. Now, at the time that Tammy Daybell was exhumed, were there concerns about the Daybell 5 children knowing about why you're exhuming their mother?
Objection, Your Honor. Beyond the scope.
So at that time, I was not part of the investigation.
Okay, so you're not aware of any reason why they just didn't tell Garth, Mark, Leah, Emma, Seth about why their mother was exhumed?
Hey, Mirandy. Hey,
That's
Lynn.
correct.
Objection, Your Honor. This has been asked and answered. He said he wasn't part of the investigation at that time.
Sustained.
This is,
I listened to the first part of the tape, officer, and it seems to mention
Okay.
at about 5:50 that Emma says to you, 5:50 on the tape. If we need to go back and listen to it, it may take me a little bit, but we can do it if we need to.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And at 5:50 on the tape, she makes some statement, Emma makes some statement about trying to get a hold of you folks. Do you remember that?
Yes,
How many times did she try to get a hold of you?
I'm aware of one time.
Are there possibilities that she called other people within your agency or other agencies to get a hold of them about this autopsy results?
Possibly.
Okay. And then you made something comment shortly after that. I believe it was at the 6 or 6:02 mark where you said something about it's been a comedy of errors. What was the comedy of errors?
I made that statement trying to lighten the situation about where I know Detective Kaika Kamanu had attempted to reach out, left messages. We hadn't heard any returns.
So you previously testified that you're aware of at least one instance where Emma Murray reached out to find out why you exhumed their mother and what the results were. And then,
Objection, Your Honor. Mischaracterizes the testimony. There was nothing about exhuming.
Sustained.
Move to strike.
Strike that.
so you're aware of one phone call where you're discussing with Emma, or trying to discuss with Emma the results of the autopsy. And you're saying that because of all this difficulty communicating with the family, the expression you used to Emma is a comedy of errors to lighten the situation about telling her why her mother died, right?
Objection, Your Honor. Asked and answered and mischaracterizes testimony.
It's a light situation to tell a.
Mr. Pryor didn't even answer the question yet before you.
You know what?
Question, Judge.
Everybody's
I'll ask
so
another
rude
question
for
if I
not
may.
kissing these kids'
It's a light
ass.
situation to notify a daughter as to why
And
their
none of
mother
those
died.
people
Is that
give
what
a
you're saying?
fuck about
Objection, Your Honor.
everybody buried
Argumentative
in the yard.
mischaracterizes testimony.
Sustained.
Move to strike.
Assholes.
Strike that.
You made a comment about to take a few minutes and talk about the autopsy results, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so it wasn't just a matter of letting her know what the results were, right? You wanted to talk to her
Fuck
about
off. She doesn't
About the
care.
autopsy results.
She doesn't care
it.
what
You
the
couldn't just tell her
autopsy
what the
says.
results found, right?
She doesn't give a flying fuck.
I didn't want to just throw that out there. No.
Okay.
You know what? You should have
You wanted
said
to talk
fuck
about
off
it, right?
then.
Yes.
Now, as a detective, there's been previous
I don't
testimony
care why
about
your mom died.
carrying body cams and
Care about your pussy ass
recorders.
motherfucking man.
Is it your
dick
normal
ass of the
policy to have a
sources of
body cam
shit.
and a recorder on when you interview witnesses?
We don't have a policy on that.
Okay, so you chose in this instance to wear a recorder, is that right?
I did.
Did you take an instance to wear a body cam as well?
No.
So there's no policy on it, but in this instance, what you were really trying to do was to capture what her reaction would be when you told her about the results. Isn't that true?
Objection, Your Honor. Argumentative.
Sustained.
Move to strike.
Strike that question.
Isn't it true your motive to talk to Emma Murray was to gauge a reaction on tape?
No.
So with this
So what if
discussion
it
about her
was?
wanting to
They
get a
are
lawyer-
investigating a murder.
Well, let me strike
Idiot.
that. So from the
What do you
time
think
she's
they should
exhumed
do?
to December 11th of 2019 to February 18, 2021,
They don't have to tell
approximately
that little
14
bitch
months.
anything.
In the interim during that time, from let's start in December of 2019 when she was exhumed, and for each and every month, at any time, did you go over and try to talk to Emma Murray about what the results of her mother's autopsy was?
What were those dates again?
Well, the day she was exhumed, December 11, 2019, and the day you approached Emma for the first time personally was February 18, 2021, right?
Correct.
And during those interim times, did you, or anybody from your office to your knowledge, go up to any member of the Murray family and say, we're waiting on the results? Did you do that?
No.
Did you go up to anybody in the Murray family or the Daybell family other than Chad and say, there's been some delays in us getting the report, but we really would like to talk to you and we'll do some pre-planning to do that? Did you do that?
I did not.
Okay. So after 14 months, your organization decided en masse that you're going to hit all of the kids and wear recorders and try to go tell the kids about what's going on, correct?
Objection, Your Honor. Misstates the testimony. Argumentative.
Overruled.
Correct?
Yes, sir.
And then at some point,
Yeah,
you
so
know who
what?
Josh
It's a
Garner is,
murder.
right?
I do.
You had encounters with him, correct?
Yes.
And at
What
some
about
point,
it?
you were aware that Emma had retained Josh Garner.
Oh,
correct?
I like how Emma did that too.
We
Oh,
learned that she had
contact
not.
my attorney. Oh
Prior
yeah,
to
I
that
don't
time, were
have
you aware
one.
that she had made had representation
Yeah,
from him?
she's a real
Yes.
fucking
Okay.
winner.
So you knew that there was a potential connection there, correct?
Correct.
And would you really blame her, Emma, if after 14 months of not hearing anything from your organization, she's a little skeptical to talk to you folks about what you're wanting to say to her?
Objection, Your Honor. Argumentative.
Sustained.
Move to strike.
Strike that question.
I'm pretty sure they already know how she's going to behave after 14 months.
You did
and she
mention that
doesn't
you
care.
weren't interested in interviewing her and asking any questions. You did say that though, right?
It
Yes.
is infuriating.
Okay.
It fucking pisses me right off. He keeps saying that. Did you
So
ever
your-
talk to
your
those kids? Did you ever
explanation
talk
is
to those
that
kids?
You wanted to be more sensitive to
Fuck
her
him.
about letting her know what the results were, correct?
Absolutely.
And you wanted to sit down with her and have an opportunity while the
fucking
recorder's
bullshit.
on to gauge her reaction, right?
I wanted to sit down and discuss that with her, not just for any reason.
This makes me so
And then at the
mad.
end, when you're talking about the school, was that also a police tactic to sort of soften her a little bit so that maybe she would open up and talk to you about things?
That was Lieutenant Ron Ball who had made that statement and questioned her about that.
Well, I don't care who made the statement. I asked whether it was a police tactic.
Objection, Your Honor. Calls for speculation.
Is it your tactic to
Move to strike.
fucking
Strike that question.
attack
And then
people
you
who
suggested to
didn't-
her that she get information
definitely
from
didn't do anything?
the victim services, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And the victim services, is that an office within the prosecutor's office?
The
Exactly
prosecutor's
right,
office
Lynn.
helps
You
manage
can't.
Victim services.
You can't.
So the fancy way of saying that is the prosecutor has the authority over victim services, or when you say manage, they supervise the victim services program, correct?
As I understand.
Yeah,
it,
ask if
Okay.
they're
So the prosecutor's
wonder
office
if their father
the
has
same
ever
prosecutor's
tried
office
to
that-
fucking
issued the order to
You know,
exhume Tammy Daybell, right?
not manipulate
Objection, Your Honor.
and
This is misstates evidence.
And
Prosecutor's office
think
has
of
no
their
issue with
feelings
this.
at all. He killed their mother.
All right, Ms. Blake, this is part of the reason why I don't like.
Maybe their
speaking
dad
objections,
needs to
because
worry
now you
about
put that
his
out there. I'm
kids.
overruling the objection.
No,
If
he's
the witness
still
knows the
worried
answer, he
about
may
his
answer that. You can correct
fucking
that on
big
redirect.
kitted self.
Would
That's
you
what
ask
he's
that
worried
again,
about.
please?
Well, the prosecutor's office was the organization in Madison County and Fremont County to pursue trying to get an order to have Tammy Daybell's body exhumed, correct?
That was done through a prosecutor's office, I believe, in Utah.
Okay.
Hmm.
And the information was to obtain, or the purpose was to obtain information surrounding an investigation of Tammy Daybell in this area as well, right?
Yes.
Okay. So would it surprise you if Emma Murray would be quite hesitant to approach an organization affiliated with the prosecutor's office when she wasn't told her mother was being exhumed?
Right? If
Objection, Your Honor.
anybody hurt
Argumentative
those
calls for
kids,
speculation.
it's their father. These police
So
should
you
never
gave her
even know who these
information
people
from
are if their
organizations
dad
that
wasn't
are
a fucking asshole.
Managed and organized by the prosecutor's office, correct?
Yes.
And the purpose of that was that they could utilize those services to maybe have someone talk to them about what's going on in the case, right?
Among other things,
What are the other things?
such as counseling.
Okay. And you're very concerned about the counseling with the Daybell children 14 months after their mother was exhumed, right?
Objection, Your Honor. Argumentative.
Overruled.
Yes.
Why weren't you so concerned on the day their mother was exhumed and and the whole family on both sides wasn't notified that they were taking their mother out of her
Why
burial
wasn't
site?
their
Objection, Your
dad
Honor. This is
concerned?
argumentative.
Sustained.
I have
To
nothing-
strike.
Nothing else, Judge. Thank you.
All right, that last.
She had to be exhumed at all.
counsel is
She
strictly
shouldn't have been buried.
Includes cross. Ms. Blake, you can redirect.
Fuck off, Pryor. Get out of here. Get out of here. I can't take it. Right? They hate the cops because it's all the cops' fault that
Detective
their dad
Mattingly,
fucking is a
counsel
piece of
asked you
shit.
about Emma being polite. Is that fair?
Yes,
From what you heard in the audio, were you also polite?
I believe I was.
Was Detective Ball polite?
He was.
Were any threats made to Emma?
None.
I think you testified the autopsy report, maybe the result had come in approximately a month before, give or take.
Yes.
And you, in fact, were there to try to share the results of that report
you're
with
reading.
Ms. Murray. Is that correct?
Correct.
And she declined.
She did.
As part of your employment and work in law enforcement, have you ever been involved in death notifications?
Several.
Do you generally just go and blurt out what the cause of someone's death is?
No,
Do you generally want to sit down and have that conversation?
I do.
And in this case, you were trying to share autopsy results regarding Emma Murray's mother. Is that correct?
Yes.
Would it be fair to say in your experience that you would want to sit down and discuss with someone when there's been a finding by a medical examiner that the death was homicide by asphyxiation?
I would.
I have no further questions.
All right, thank you, Ms. Blake. That'll conclude Detective Mattingly's testimony then. And where this is rebuttal, I don't believe he would be recalled for any reason. Is that correct?
He would not, Your Honor. The state would release him.
Okay. You are released from any subpoena you had, Detective Mattingly. Thank you for coming in and testifying today. You can go ahead and step down.
Thank you.
All right, does the state have another witness to call today?
We do not have additional witnesses for today, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you, counsel. The court was advised,
Oh,
as
shit.
was the jury, of our
Are you serious?
likely schedule for today. So we are going to recess for the day. We've also got tomorrow
Oh.
off and we'll resume on Tuesday with additional rebuttal. Is that correct, Ms. Blake?
That is correct, Your Honor.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, then we are going to
I
recess for
haven't
the day.
frazzled.
This is a long break for you. You've continued to comply with the court's admonishing instruction. I
Pryor's
wanted
been
to
bringing
put some
him,
special emphasis on that, just because in the likely event.
bringing in
this
his dry
holiday
cleaning every
weekend,
week.
you might be around lots of friends and family. Please advise anyone that is curious about your jury service that you're simply not permitted to talk about the case. I think people generally are pretty good to understand and respect that if you are telling them that that's simply the order of the court. I do appreciate your attentiveness. We'll return on Tuesday for additional testimony. And again, I'll admonish you, please don't discuss the case or talk about any of the testimony with anyone else or with each other. You can only do that during deliberations, and please don't do anything to investigate anything about this case while we have this long recess. So we will return for further testimony starting Tuesday morning. And I appreciate all those in attendance today complying with the courtroom conduct order. With that, then we'll be in recess until Tuesday.
Right, please.
I know. I wanted this to be over with so badly today or tomorrow, really. Hey, Happy. You know what? I have not kept up with Karen Reed at all. And we're actually going to go out of town tomorrow. Yeah, I would like to know. I keep wanting to know something about it, but every time I try to, I can't really retain it for some reason. I can't get interested in it. I don't know what it is. Been trying for a while. Thank you, Legs. You have a great holiday too. Hey, DC. How are you, sweetness? We're going to go to the cabin tomorrow. It's crazy, but yeah, I bet. Yeah, every time I've tried, I'm like, everything I hear, I'm like, well, there's obviously a lot more to that. And I can't, I need to go back and I need to start from the beginning on that. And I just don't know. It's up northeast Arizona, like oh my gosh. Like near Ash Fork, Seligman, where me and Queen drove around to. We drove right near where our property is. That protest. Yeah, see, that's why that got really wild with that Karen Reed stuff. Thanks, Queen. You too. Yeah, my daughter and son-in-law are going up to the cabin this weekend too. I haven't seen much of her lately, so it'll be really nice. Hey, Faith, how are you? Yeah, this case makes me nuts. I can't believe how much he talks about how these kids weren't informed and and they weren't treated with kid gloves and on and on and on and blah, blah, blah. Those kids don't care that other kids were buried in the yard. I wonder if there's something. Let me see if I can find something. Okay, let's watch. Oh my God. Okay, I gotta say, this is absolutely the God's honest truth. So whatever you guys want to say to me about this, go it totally right ahead because I can't. Has anybody watched? I don't know this guy. I don't really know what he's even talking about. But everything I hear him say it just makes me laugh. but what is it? Oh my God. Now I can't think of his name. Fuck. I just saw him and I just see it and I automatically laugh. Shit, it's gone now. Okay, going live with Lefty or something? Is that it? Damn. Can't remember his name. You guys, he just makes me laugh so hard. I don't whatever kind of position he takes on I have no idea what he's talking about or anything. But he says, first of all, he says everything like a few different times, and that makes me laugh. He just, I don't know. Okay, let's watch Lunchtime with Lauren. That's going to be good. I bet. It always is.
If you don't want to be seen, you don't want to go behind me.
I don't want to go behind you?
No,
I don't want to be.
it's looking at me. My camera is looking at me. Is everybody here? This is Lunch Live Continued. I don't know why YouTube did that, but you know what they did? They some big screen popped up as I was doing my lunch live and said, time to take a break. Clearly they must have thought I was angry or something, and then
Oh my
it just
God,
shut off.
we're
Hey guys. So here I
Tuesday
am
will be
again.
day 30.
Look at this, by the way. A lot of interviews going on down here.
2 full months.
So I don't know what you guys saw at the end.
Yes.
So let me just reiterate what I was saying, because I don't know when YouTube shut off saying that I needed to take a break. I was like, YouTube, I'm an adult. I don't need a mother right now. I know when I need to take a break, and it's not right now.
What? How weird.
So what I was saying is, if John Pryor wanted to end on a solid witness testimony, it should have been Greg
I
Hempekin
think
if
so
he wanted
too,
to help the
Lynn.
defense. Ending on the witness testimony today, attempting to show that maybe Tylee Ashlyn Ryan was burned elsewhere and not on Chad Daybell's property, was tone deaf at best, and was a great day for justice. That testimony will not be forgotten, and they'll remember just how brutal it was. Rest in peace, Tylee Ashlyn.
Yeah, that was
Ryan.
such
And
a
now we
bad
know
move.
that she might not have even been dismembered. We learned that too, that maybe she was burned whole, which means that the things we saw that were shocking at or near the time of death happened and had nothing to do with being dismembered, if you know what I mean. The witness,
No, it was
a jury
brutal.
will not forget this today, and it was a good day
Absolutely.
for justice. Thanks, John Pryor.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
Sad, sad day to learn that the guy named Chad Daybell sitting there watching while the jury members cried and why people in the gallery cried, that Chad Daybell just sat there emotionless. They won't forget that either. There were a lot of tears during the break, and the break was longer than planned. I guess the bailiffs came out, explained that they were talking to the jury, and it was not on record. When we got back in, they brought up rebuttal witnesses. That's when the rebuttal witnesses happened for the prosecution, and they were excellent and needed. 3 of them.
Right, frazzled me
First,
too. I
Lisa
know.
Marie, who we were going to do an
Forever.
interview with her, and she
Forever.
declined. She's changed her
Yep.
mind, understandably. I get it.
That
She was a
pelvic
friend of Tammy and
level.
Emma's at school, and she was able to speak of her health, her Fitbit steps, her kindness, her extroverted attitude, the closeness that she felt with this tight-knit group of teachers, and again, just how healthy she was. Then we had testimony from McKay, who you heard about from the last Lunch Live, and I want to bring this up with McKay again, that my last podcast episode, you can find it on Spotify or Apple or Google Podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts, actually brings up my thoughts that Garth possibly found his mother. And that's what McKay says was relayed to him by Garth when they were coworkers. And to Garth's now wife, actually. Wasn't his wife then, but is now. And then we had a law enforcement official. We were able to play the recording where Emma claimed during defense that the law enforcement would not give her the autopsy results of her mother because they were forcing her to do an interview in order to get the autopsy results. Well, we learned that Emma reached out for the autopsy results, and police went there to give her
Oh,
a
that would be
victim's
awesome,
advocate,
Queen. I would love that.
to reach out to her attorney
Yeah,
if needed, and
absolutely.
to spend a few minutes with Emma,
Yay.
sharing her mother's autopsy results without doing an interview. That's what we heard on a recording. Very different story than Emma told us. And the jury was taking
Yes, we do
notes.
love you, Lynn.
And
very
what
much.
and what Chad Daybell was doing during this, he was raising his eyebrows and doing this. That's what he was doing. I would call it like a smug eyebrow raise. He also did that during Lisa Marie's testimony. Very extreme. I wrote it in chat, and everybody noticed looking at Chad. We're like, what's he doing? His eyebrows are raised. It's that, like I called it that look, the I don't want to be angry, but I'm angry and not in control, but I'm going to smile because I don't think it's good to be angry look. It's that emotion. It's just like very
And he doesn't
specified
have a good
look.
look of any kind.
And then we had McKay, who you heard from,
all
who shared the
heartless
story.
and
3 very,
mean and
very,
ugly.
very powerful witnesses who who really do show how unreliable
Right, Frazzle?
the defense's witnesses have been. And then again, remember, the defense's last witness was also more powerful for the prosecution, for the state, for justice, in my opinion, than John Pryor or
Hey,
Chad
Justice
Daybell.
Jean.
Chad Daybell
See you.
spoke. We heard him speak today,
Been a
as
while.
in he didn't want to testify, and he made that choice outside of the jury. And so we heard him say, I'm good. And now we've adjourned for the weekend, for Memorial Day weekend. I'm going to go back and be with my family. Stay up to date. Dr. John has also been watching, and we will be going live later today. I'll get you the link. And I'm also going to possibly be going live with Justin Lum here in just a little bit, as well as later today on some local news in East Idaho. So I will let you know where those. I'll be sending the links here and there. So keep an eye out, subscribe, hit notifications. I can't always schedule this stuff fast enough as we're reporting live. But it's a really, really big important
No,
day,
I'm definitely
and
not.
I will be in touch.
I'm going to try tomorrow
and
night.
keep watching here at Hidden True Crime, because there's
Depends
more
on how quickly
gonna
we
be
can get up
happening
to the cabin.
today.
and get
Thank you,
set up.
everyone. May justice be served.
Yeah, I will try tomorrow night. Let me see. I thought I saw something, you guys. I wish I knew who that lefty guy was, you guys. That guy makes me die laughing. It disappeared. I don't know why it ever even comes up. I don't know that channel. Okay, we've got another one from Lauren. She is. I really like her a lot. Her and her husband. They have so much on this. If you go back and look, like, you can see everything. Whose love when he is an I know. Yes. But, you know, the thing is, you never know, though, Frazzled. Like, that's what me and Mr. Snotty are going to do. We're going to donate to science. They need to learn these things. They really do. And I just don't have any issue with what happens to my body. I really don't. I'm concerned about my soul for sure. 100%. But I'm just not one of those people that cares. You know, my daughter's all worked up. She doesn't want us to do that. But first of all, I don't want someone to have to, no reason to pay for me to be buried somewhere, for anything to happen. If we can help them learn something, that to me is really awesome. And I personally just do not care about my body. We are done till Tuesday. No, you don't, Frazzled. I don't think you don't. Yeah. I know. Let me tell you, I have a really good friend who ad nauseum has tried to talk me out of this. Like I'm telling you, it makes her crazy. And I keep saying, I really do not care what happens to my body. I do not care one bit. I wanted to help somebody. 100% wanted to help somebody. But for me, I just don't give a, I don't care at all.
Well, actually, let me make sure we're live. Hello, everyone. We've got slow service at the courthouse again. Let me make sure.
No
I have
court
a
tomorrow.
guest here with me, but first let's make sure we're live. And then another guest coming. Hello, hello. Okay, 2 thumbs up. We're on.
She has
We're
a
on.
guest.
Okay, I have someone really
Woo.
special here with me. One of the witnesses today for the prosecution's rebuttal. So let's first tell you what happened.
Right,
And
sis.
then we'll
It
have
is.
McKay on here, and then we're gonna have Lisa Marie on here as well. So today the defense rested. They had one more testimony that was absolutely heartbreaking. We're gonna get to that in just a second, because first we're gonna talk to
This
McKay.
is a great
And McKay
channel if you don't
testified
watch
today.
already.
He for the prosecution, he knew Garth. And McKay, come over here real quick. We just stand here and we make sure not to get. This is McKay. McKay testified. So I met his dad during the longer morning break, and I met him with you met Aunt Vicky and Tammy's cousins, and I just felt, I just want to say this. I thank you for your testimony. You testified that what Garth said to you while you were working at the haunted house. Is that correct?
Yeah.
It was I want to say it was a very short testimony, but a very powerful testimony. And my thought is, I just want you to know that I felt like it was, if you see something, say something type of testimony. Is that how you felt?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Was it hard when this investigation was going on? How did you go forward to investigators, or how did you tell your story or what you had heard?
I told my parents when I got home from work the story that I heard from Garth, and then they reached out to Detective Mattingly because they know him, and then he reached out, or he had to have another detective contact me because I was an acquaintance with him. I knew him, and so that's kind of how my story got on their radar, and so
Okay.
cool.
And then the story is, just to confirm that, and could you say that statement? It was in court. We can hear the public testimony.
Yeah, so it was the following weekend. Garth was back at work, and he was pretty quiet for the majority of the night. And then I kind of went up to him, and I was like, hey, sorry to hear about your mom. And that's when he told me that he was the one that found her. He found her when he got home from work the following weekend, or the previous weekend. And when he found his mom, he couldn't find his dad. And I don't remember if he said that she was in the bed or next to the bed, but she was very pale and her lips were blue.
Okay, and her lips were blue.
Mhm.
Oh, and then really quickly, Lisa.
Oh my God. He said it. He couldn't find his dad. Guess what? Chad went to take Alex back to his truck at the church. Remember? Yeah, his friend said this. Exactly right, Molly's mom. Exactly right. Yep. Because he left his phone in the car at the church. That's what he did. I'll bet you anything. If that's what happened, I mean, really, we don't know what happened because Garth has told several stories. But that right there is far different from what he said to the jury. I think so. I think they did it together, Gerri. That's my opinion. We're never going to know, really. But I think they held her down and put a pillow over her mouth and suffocated her. No, I understand that, Lynn. My son said to me once, Mom, I am always going to have your back, but you are not always right. But the thing is, there's a difference, though. You know what? I would never, ever have my kids in this position. Most parents wouldn't do this to their kids. I think that probably Alex did it. But they both, I think she fought. They both, between the both of them, they held her down. That's my opinion. I don't know, obviously. Of course I don't. Right. That's what I feel too. I do. I think he had his knees on her arms. Yeah, that's what I think. That's my guess. Yes. He has changed his story several times. He sure has. Exactly. And can you imagine in your head going, okay, you know what? I knew I married somebody who was never going to financially provide for my family. I knew I married somebody who was an oaf, that needed to wear a bra and, belittled me and was disrespectful to me. But I really didn't expect him to kill me. I mean, that's what I feel like she must be thinking. It's so sad. I know, Gerri, that's what I said earlier. I feel horrible saying this, but I can't help it. I just knew prior to this week that I was all worked up over the weekend thinking my heart is getting ready to break for these kids because they're put in such a position and all these things. And I come out of it by today, and I'm really sorry I called Emma a bitch. And all that they want to talk about is how nobody has treated those kids right. Their fucking dad killed their mother. That's who fucked those kids over, is their dad. She is, Gerri. I can't help it. That's the last thing I want to feel, but I can't help it. I think she did. Justice, I don't know, because it said that, so Charles sent her emails trying to tell her what was going on, and it says they were read and deleted. But Chad could have done that also. Even though it was her work, he had the time, of course, to fiddle around with people's shit. He's the only one of these fucking nitwits that was smart enough to turn his phone off and not have his location down. Those other ones just had 55 fucking burner phones but never turned them off. Jeez. He had a little bit of smarts about that kind of stuff. So I don't know if she really knew that part or not. She had to know something was up, though, right? I mean, I think this is what I always say. Whenever you when you hear that somebody says, oh, they hired a private investigator to follow their spouse around. Well, if you need to do that, you already have your answers, in my opinion. My ex-husband wouldn't tell you the fucking truth no matter what. You could count on. He lied when a damn truth was better. But I used to think I would never, I was never allowed in his phone. He had it all locked up and shit. And I used to think, I'm not going to date anyone. I'm not going to have anything to do with someone if I'm not allowed to look in their phone. And after I met and got married to Mr. Snotty, it dawned on me, you know what? I don't need to look in his phone. I don't care. I don't have time or interest to look in his phone. And that's really what it boils down to. If you have to go and fucking poke around and pick, then you already have your answers. I mean, that for me, all the years I trying to bust his ass, it was dumb. I mean, clearly at one point I finally said, by all means, find someone good enough to leave for. Fuck me. Enough's enough. But I don't know. But see, his behavior was not, everyone thinks it's like him. I've heard so many people say, oh, him and Lori got together and it was a perfect storm. They were both doing shit without the other one. Now, to this degree, I don't think so. Not children. But she damn well had something to do with Joe Ryan dying before she met Mantits. He definitely told other people that he was married to them in another fucking life. Which what that has to do with this life, I don't fucking know. Nothing. Idiot. God, I can't stand him. They both were doing some fucked up shit. And he told his brother-in-law years before that his sex life was vanilla. Well, you look so fucking hot. With your tits and ukulele. Oh my God.
Marie, come right over here and we'll. Oh, you declined. That's good. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. It was so nice talking to you, and I completely understand. Yeah, Lisa Marie's the children not to go on, but you did an amazing job today. Thank you. I completely understand. Thank you for sharing that, McKay. And I guess, and I want everyone to know too, the last podcast on our Spotify and our Apple was actually about some evidence that I was hearing that concerned me. And I just want you to know that it was my concern that poor Garth might have been traumatized and found his mother. And so what you're saying is that what you heard, and you can't speak to what the truth is, but what you heard from somebody is what you shared today.
Right. Yep.
I just want to thank you again, McKay. I know you have a long ride home, but I think, again, if this case has taught us anything, it's if you see something, say something, and you did the right thing. And your testimony was really important today. I just want you to know that I've sat through every day of this trial. I've been here for 2 months, and not every testimony matters, but yours did today.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. So I want you to know that. So thank you for what you did today.
Yep.
And have a good drive home. Okay, we'll see you. Thank you. Thanks, McKay. Yeah, it was an incredible testimony by McKay, an incredible testimony by Lisa Marie, who's decided she's not going to talk, but I want you to know that I spoke to her and told her how meaningful it was. She's still friends with Emma Daybell Murray, and she was friends with Tammy Daybell at work, and they spoke together. Those were the two witness testimonies that we heard on rebuttal today from the prosecution. Today started, it was just soul crushing. So in the courtroom are two of Tammy Daybell's cousins, Patty and Julie, as well as Aunt Vicky. Julie is Aunt Vicky's daughter, and Julie knew Tylee as well, and JJ and Charles. She knew them all. They had gone to church together, and her daughter is was friends with Tylee. Then there were other, Dawson, our friend Dawson was also there, and it started out an absolutely heartbreaking. Here is Dawson, and can I turn it? Can I say hello?
Remember Dawson?
Dawson.
Oh, look, and he's with
There we are. There we are. Say hi, guys. We're live
Hello. Hey, y'all.
with our
How
hidden
y'all
gems.
doing?
How do you feel about the end of the day, Larry?
Wonderful.
It was a good day, wasn't it?
It was a great day.
It was a heartbreaking day at the beginning, but it was a good day for justice.
It was a great day for justice.
Oh my God. I know.
The witnesses are spot on. They're truthful. And I think the judge made good rulings today.
He really did. He really did.
I think they were fair and honest.
Yeah, you know, you can tell how measured Judge Boyce is, and he
Absolutely.
really thinks about every objection. His goal is to be fair,
And that he is.
and that he is. I agree. I agree. So thank you. Thank you. Thank
Love
you.
you, baby.
Love you too. We'll see you later. Dawson, I hope it was a good day for you too. Do you feeling good?
Yes.
Good. Good. Thank you. So in the courtroom today, it started out, John Pryor brought his last witness,
Yes,
which
Justice
was an
Jane.
anthropologist who studied.
And you know what? I want to say, I really can't wait because August is when we're finally going to get some justice for Charles. That has been way too long. She is. I love her and her husband. Look, do you see that? Larry and Dawson together. Wow. So many good people have been hurt, and look at how close they've all gotten with each other and have genuine feelings for each other that this group of people never had for anyone.
Studies how burn patterns on bodies, and has experience there. And what he shared about Tylee was, his goal, I think, was clearly to say Tylee's remains may not have been burned on Chad Daybell's property. Tylee's remains might have been burned somewhere else, and there's some bone that is still missing that were not recovered. So where is this bone? Never mind that Chad Daybell sent a text about shooting a raccoon and burying the raccoon in the pet cemetery at the exact same time that Alex Cox's phone was pinging on his property. So best case scenario, there really was a raccoon that Chad shot that he buried. But if that was the case, then he would be saying hi to Alex Cox. Oh, what's up? What are you doing here, dude? I'm burying a raccoon. What are you burying right next to me in the exact same spot? I mean, that's best case scenario. So it's really hard to buy, right? Like, it's not going to make a difference with the jury when they look over all of their evidence. But what this testimony is going to do, and what it did to so many people in the room, there were tears streaming. What it did do was tell us just how brutal Tylee Ryan's death was, how careless, how shocking, that all of our worst fears are coming true. That once again, when doubt starts to seep in and you're like, maybe it wasn't that bad. Maybe it was okay. Maybe it was fast. Maybe it wasn't so bad. No. Then we learn about blunt force trauma on her ribs, on her sternum, on her head. And you know what happened when there was cross
jaw
exam by
broken
the
6 places.
prosecution? And so after Pryor sat down with his witness and the prosecution got up to cross, and they asked about the blunt force trauma, and the guy said, yes, there was blunt force trauma, the sternum, the ribs, the head. It wasn't Chad that nodded this time. It was John Pryor that nodded. John Pryor nodded like, yep, I know about this. And then he gets back up to redirect John Pryor after the prosecution's questions. There are tears. Excuse me, tears streaming in the courtroom. And he gets back up to cross, and he asks one thing of his witness, John Pryor, and it's the blunt force trauma, by the way, as in like confirming that it exists. Okay? The blunt force trauma, dude. Could that have happened somewhere else, not on Chad Daybell's property? And the guy's like, yes. And we're all just like, what? Tears streaming, mouth drop, hearing the brutality once again of Tylee Ryan's death in court. while her people that knew her and loved her are in the courtroom, while the jury had looked appalled, they looked appalled and hurt and shocked again, thinking of Tylee Ryan. And John Pryor's redirect is, let's confirm the blunt force trauma to her, but that might not have happened on Chad's property. He probably should have concluded with Greg Hampikian yesterday. To conclude on this witness testimony for the defense was probably the worst thing he could have done for defense, and the best thing.
What is happening? She went dark. Huh.
Live is allegedly still on somewhere, just so everybody knows, but I can't see it. So
Okay, I was like, what happened? Is this me? What's going on? I know. Isn't that terrible? That girl fought so hard. You know she would too. I've been really hoping that they drugged her and she didn't know. That she didn't have to look into her uncle's face. And that would confirm to her. If her uncle did that, she knew full well that her mother was, behind it or definitely okay with it. For her jaw to be broke so many, God bless. It's like they just beat her to death. I don't, God. Jeez. That is so sad. I know, but see, that's what I keep thinking too. That hopefully she was drugged and stuff. But the more and more, first of all, finding out what happened to her pelvic bone was almost more than I could really take, honest to God. Like that was, wow. And now, like she said, hearing it today, I'm just like, you've got to be kidding. Like it sounds like they they didn't just suffocate her or anything. I'm not saying that's good. I don't know. She was beat. Yep. She did. She had to know. The one thing she did know about that family, Tylee was not stupid to the nonsense. Once she knew she was dark and she had become a zombie, she already probably knew that she was goner. But Alex didn't do shit without it coming from Lori. And she knows that. I know. And to know it's coming from the direction of your mother. Oh my God. It's too horrible to even get your head around at all. I know, total monsters. Like, what the fuck? Why? I know. Oh my God. And it's just so ridiculous. It's so. Do we know that happened on his property? Get the fuck out of here already. Does it even matter? What difference does it make? That's where she ended up. On your property. Sorry. It is. It's so hard. That's what I'm saying. You know what? Every other parent, every mother is sitting here going, you know what? If you hurt my kid's feelings, I'm going to fuck you up. I cannot handle for someone to hurt my kid's feelings. You think you can put your finger on them? Yeah, good fucking luck with that. Right. No, this is a done deal for him. There's no way. They have no, their witnesses were horrible, which we knew they pretty much had to be because there is no defense for this guy, right? So we didn't expect him to have like this really good stuff. But I mean, even those kids are so clearly lying. And even if they weren't, see, this is a thing. First of all, you don't speak ill of the dead. I'm sorry, you don't do that. And if you do, you damn sure don't do it to someone's kids. You know, that I always say that. My parents and my kids are off limits. Don't fucking go there. You can have all the feelings you want to. I'm not going to listen to them. I don't care if it's something that's true. I don't need to hear it. Don't care about it. But when you go around and you want to say, as her daughter, act like, you know, she just went in the back because she knew she couldn't do it very well and this and that. Oh my God. Remember her first words? In the past year, her health was failing. In what fucking way? She collapsed when she got home because she was exhausted. Because Mantets did not fucking do his part at all. He didn't help out. Not financially, not physically, nothing. When she was down there carrying heavy boxes, what about her husband that doesn't have a job could come get them for her? Oh, that's a big fucking surprise, huh? Oh, men don't do that, right? No, men do. Mantits don't. My God. You know, I gotta tell I did not have a good marriage, my first marriage, but let me tell you, he was so much more of a man than fucking Chad Daybell, and that's hard for me to get out of my mouth, really. The guy did a lot of bad shit, but he worked, for fuck's sake, and he wouldn't have let me carry a fucking heavy box. This guy's a jackass. And I'm telling you, if they are impressed that that guy's DNA is nowhere in that shed, that is not impressive. That does not, it's not a good look. I don't think so, Frazzled. I would be very surprised. Even if you are, even a capital attorney doesn't usually handle appeals. That is a whole different area of law, pretty much. Almost never does your attorney handle your appeal. I know. I know. And how many times has that happened, right, Frazzled? Exactly. Every time we hear about this, it's like, oh, the money you got from killing your spouse is what is saving your hide. Yeah. And you know, some people had started a little memorial for the for Tylee and JJ out there on that property. Those kids made them take it off. You know that? They wouldn't let that happen. The neighbors ended up letting it be on their property. Do you believe that shit? No, I'm not. I will call Emma a bitch. How do you say no to that? Everything they do, it's like they are just hell-bent to not show any humanity at all, any compassion. Against the fence, right? Yeah, you've seen it, right? I just learned that this week too. Every time I saw it, I just assumed it was on that property. It's not. It's those neighbors, the ones that testified. They put it on their property. I don't know how you, if I had nothing, no part of, knew nothing about any of that, how would you just say, no, you can't have it here? If you simply knew 2 kids died, man. They are the whole thing. And the kids, I'm sorry. And I don't care. They say they're not treated good in that town. Well, I'm not surprised. She is, Carta. She is. I will say this. You know what? Garth, you could tell he was flustered. Like he didn't know what to do. I mean, I'm not going to, neither one of them are good liars, which is a good thing. But neither one of them sounded even believable. But seriously, Garth really got flustered. Like he was like, you guys remember that? I'm glad the neighbors, yeah, me too. But then you see Larry and Joe Murray's brother right there. My God. So much compassion and so many relationships there. It's just crazy to see. Oh my God, frazzled. Wow. Oh, she certainly bought into it to a degree. That's for damn sure. So if he really believed all of his horse shit, everybody else that had, turned into someone else or had someone in them or whatever kind of shit he said, they all died. Not Emma. But he was able to cast that demon out, I guess. Jeez. Doesn't sound like a fucking horrible fiction story. I don't even know what. It's not even a good story. It's terrible. It's terrible. I really hope I'm not going to exactly, Gerri, exactly. That's what I heard before, Lynn, is that that she was never really close to her mother. She was close to her dad, and that her and her mom had just started getting close. That's what I'm saying. Even if you weren't like close, I mean, Still your mom. It's still a person, for God's sake. I mean, does that mean anything to these people? You know, there's something wrong with people like this. Something wrong with it. You like I always said, with Kayla acting like, she just had to, she couldn't do anything about Adam hitting Harmony because, he was going to hit her. Well, great. So what then? Yeah. Adam would have to beat me up before he punched a kid in front of my face. No, it's called humanity. It's called giving a shit about anybody, anything. Right. 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 And my mom died when I was 12. And let me tell you, I just heard one person say one time, when you kids were little, your mom wasn't the best housekeeper. And I was like, oh, what? You don't get to say shit about my mom. Don't even go there with even the slightest bit of negativity, because that will not fly. I'm not listening to none of that. I never will. But even just a person, even if it's not your mom, Besides all of that, okay, let's pretend she cheated on her Fitbit. She didn't really run any marathons. She didn't, she was lazy and just wanted to play Candy Crush and blah, 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 whatever. Did she deserve to be murdered? Even if we go along with your shit, Emma, the facts are the facts. There was nothing wrong with your mom's heart. And where did the blood clot come in? You hear that? You'd miss that today, Gerri. Yeah. That's what Emma told one of the ladies at the school, that it was a blood clot. I never heard that one before. I thought it was a fucking coughing fit and being anemic and all this other dumb shit. Yeah, one of the people from the school came in today and said that, first of all, she worked there with her, and she said she's the one that had hired Emma in the first place before Emma got a job as a teacher there. And her and Emma worked together. She said that Tammy was very active, and that she not only was in good health, but she strived to work on her to be healthy. And she said that after Tammy died, Emma told her it was a blood clot. Yeah. Where at even? Like they were pulling shit out of their ass. Now, if she didn't already, what made her think that she had to start lying right out of the damn gate? And then Pryor attacks this woman saying, oh, so Emma really told you guys were so close. She told you such private information about her mom. What the fuck do you mean private? I mean, when is how somebody died like this big secret? Yeah, it was total bullshit. You did hear that? But that's the first time I heard about a blood clot. I know. Who says that? Oh, she told you private? Like she told her about having fucking, what? What do you mean that that's not private? Like she told her mom had a yeast infection? What the fuck are you talking about? She went and told all of her mom's dirty secrets. What the fuck? So weird. This is so weird. Oh, the whole thing just makes me so crazy. Oh, okay. Right. Like she disclosed some really major shit. don't know. Whenever, when Lori has her next trial here, I don't want to be a weirdo. Can die priest. I mean, I'm trying to just say something like, what is it that would be so, like, that's not private. That's like, I don't get it. But I hope that I can at least be able to say hi to Kay and Larry when they're here, because I think we all feel something special towards them. You know, obviously I'm not going to like harass them or anything weird. I hope I can see Nate Eaton too. And Justin Lum definitely will be at the one here. I know. That's what I said. From what they were saying in the very beginning about what she died from, I'm on my last leg. Oh, I don't know. Well, I'm going to get off here, and I need to try to go to Costco while the boy's asleep. How old was she? 49. 49. She was anemic, and she apparently had some kind of seizures that Chad knows about, nobody else. I know, we're getting ready to die, Gerri, because we have everything that she had. I know. It's crazy. But for them all to just start making shit up right out of their ass means that they knew something was very wrong the whole damn time. Right. I have to be careful. You know how those coughing fits will kill you every time. Oh my God, right? You know how many people, seriously, how many people literally started sleeping at night whenever something happened to, or whenever Alex died? In fact, actually, even that one friend of Melanie Pulowski's, her friend said their whole family, you know, and they like had to feel horrible because the fact that Alex died made them feel like they could sleep at night. Oh my God. That's just it. People do have. Yeah, it is. And your life expectancy is a lot lower whenever Alex Cox is around. Oh, my Lanta. All right, I got to get out of here. All right, thanks so much, guys. Love you guys so much. I don't know when I'll be on tomorrow. I don't want to put a time necessarily because once we get up north and get settled in, beware of the storm. Oh, my Lord. Oh, shit. Exactly. Okay, so I will try to, once I have a better idea of my timing and when I can do it, I will do it. Love you too, Gerri. Love you guys so much. Thank you. Have a great weekend. I will see you sometime this weekend for sure. I will get that. I'll get it worked out. And Ash will be up at the cabin with me, so you'll see her too. That'll be nice. We barely see. So many of you guys on here don't even know my daughter. She used to be on here all the time. But she will be this weekend. Yeah, I know, Jerry. I'm excited. And Queen even said they might. Yep, Fig's going to be there this weekend with us. Queen said they might be there. Yep, so we might see everybody. Yeah, I'm excited. I hope so. Party at the cabin, right? By all my friends in my phone, right? Your friends. I know, right? Like, DC's kids call me Tube Ma on their YouTube grandma. So, all right, I'm going to shut up. Love you guys. I'll see you tomorrow sometime. Love you. Bye.